Chapter 404. Xianxia. Someone screamed before he died. The rogue cultivators who had fallen into chaos were awakened by this scream. Everyone suddenly realized that they had been eating and drinking for free all this time just to numb themselves. No wonder they couldn't figure out the reason. They didn't expect the price to be so high that they had to pay with their lives. All kinds of curses were directed at Xianxia. The number of people on both sides was similar, but it was a completely oppressive massacre. A rogue cultivator released a flying sword to counterattack, but it was immediately shot down by the opponent's flying sword. Before he could react, he felt a chill in his back and a flying sword pierced through his chest. Another rogue cultivator wanted to escape on his sword. As soon as he rose up, he felt a chill in his waist. His upper body tilted and was separated from his lower body, and his intestines flowed out. The surrounding masked men were all at the crossing calamity stage. They cooperated seamlessly with each other, attacking and defending at the same time. They attacked mercilessly. The group of rogue cultivators didn't even have a chance to escape. In an instant they collapsed. Cries of grief and indignation suddenly sounded and then suddenly disappeared. If it weren't for the corpses everywhere in the valley and the strong smell of blood, no one would believe that the surprise attack ended in such a short time. As soon as the battle was over, the masked man quickly cleaned up the battlefield. The storage pouches and various magic tools were quickly picked up. The corpses were also quickly piled up. From the beginning to the end, no one made a single sound. Everything was carried out in silence. Xianxia suddenly appeared beside Guan Yu. Looking at the team members in the valley cleaning up the battlefield in an orderly manner, he nodded slightly and said, "My efforts were not in vain. There were more than 600 people. Why did you kill them all? You could have used them for your own purposes." Guan Yu got off the horse and asked. Red Rabbit seemed unwilling to witness such a bloody scene, so it turned around and galloped away. "There are many reasons. I don't need to explain them one by one." Xianxia said indifferently, "I wanted to use these 600 people to test the effect of your training. This is one of the reasons." Guan Yu frowned and his gaze moved from him to the team members in the valley. After the masked team members gathered the corpses, a few of them took out fire talismans and threw them out, preparing to destroy the corpses. With a buzz sound, a raging fire ignited and the bloody corpse was engulfed in flames. Thick black smoke began to rise and a burnt smell filled the air. Xianxia's nostrils flared and with a wave of his hand, a green fireball landed on the corpse. The green flames exploded and quickly engulfed the red flames. The rapid rise in temperature forced the masked men in the surroundings to retreat. Not long after, the fire was extinguished and the corpses were all turned into ashes. The team members quickly formed into two teams. The two leaders of the team rushed over and handed 2 storage bags to Guan Yu. Inside the bags were the spoils of war they had just collected. Guan Yu took the storage bag and looked at Xianxia. Seeing him nod, Guan Yu immediately turned around and shouted, "Change." The 2 leaders flashed back and all the team members immediately moved. They took off their masked clothes and stuffed them into the storage bag. Then they took out another set of masked clothes from the storage bag and put them on. After they were done, the words "Rogue Cultivator" were written on their chests. There were also 600 people, and they were exactly the same as the 600 people who had just been massacred. However, their aura was completely different. They lined up neatly and stood solemnly. Xianxia stepped forward, looked down and waved his arm. "Special Battle Team 1st Battalion, Special Battle Team 2nd Battalion, remember your profession is a soldier. A soldier's profession is to never stop fighting. I have painstakingly trained you all for this moment. Today you will officially follow me into battle. Perhaps this road will be filled with thorns, danger and death, but I believe that you are the one and only soldiers in the cultivation world. You can overcome all difficulties and obstacles, and the outside world will become more wonderful because of you. We pledge our lives to follow the leader. Long live the leader. Long live the leader." All the team members shouted at the top of their lungs, and their voices echoed in the valley for a long time. Xianxia waved his hand and pointed in the direction of Utopia's military camp. He said loudly, "There are close to 10,000 soldiers in Utopia. You are the first batch of members to officially follow me into battle. You are also the first batch of soldiers who have used the limit-breaking pill and spent a large amount of spirit stones to create. You bear the heavy responsibility of helping the latecomers to break through to the tribulation stage. Are you ready? Invincible. Invincible. All the team members were impassioned. I don't think that every cultivator can live forever, but... Yu Qianqiu suddenly waved his arms and shouted, I can guarantee you that your bloody battle today will give your future generations a land without oppression and exploitation in Utopia. Those with outstanding battle achievements. A monument will be erected in Utopia and passed down to future generations. Long live the leader. Long live the leader. All the team members shouted again. After mobilizing everyone before the battle, Yu Qianqiu looked at everyone affectionately. Then he waved his hand and shouted, Let's go. More than 600 team members disappeared, leaving Guan Yu alone to look at the empty valley. After a long time, Guan Yu whistled and Red Rabbit galloped over. He mounted the majestic horse and looked in the direction of Ethereal Palace for a long time. Then he galloped straight for the military camp. In a hidden valley outside the Hundred Flowers Valley, Yu Qianqiu and a group of team members quietly appeared. All the team members observed their surroundings warily. With a wave of Yu Qianqiu's hand, hundreds of well-trained team members immediately spread out and conducted a carpet search. After confirming that they were not being watched, they returned and gave him an okay gesture. Yu Qianqiu nodded in relief. He took out 2 jade archives and handed them to the 2 battalion commanders of the Special Forces. He said, This is a detailed map of the area outside the Hundred Flowers Valley. The 2 battalions are to be divided into 60 squads. Look for favorable terrain to hide outside the Hundred Flowers Valley. Try your best to form an encirclement. Take note. You must ensure that the communication between squads will not be cut off. If anything happens, you can respond to each other. Also, there are some things to take note of regarding your current identities in the Jade Archives. Read them carefully. Understood. The 2 battalion commanders replied. Yu Qianqiu continued, If you're discovered while you're hiding, you can tell them my name. Tell them that you're my men. If anyone still insists on provoking me after knowing my name, kill them on the spot. Alright, carry out the order. Yes. The 2 team members saluted, then quickly returned to their squads with the Jade Archives in hand. These 2 Jade Archives were personally drawn by Yu Qianqiu while he was touring around the Hundred Flowers Valley with a group of rogue cultivators. He had prepared them specifically for today. Once the plan was issued, the 600 team members split up into squads and spread out in all directions, hiding among the lofty mountains and lofty ridges. The long sword on Yu Qianqiu's back popped out. Stepping on it, he leisurely flew into the Hundred Flowers Valley. He shook his head and hummed a Peking opera tune. I was admiring the mountain scenery from the city tower when I heard the commotion outside the city. Banners fluttered in the air, but it turned out to be the troops sent by Yu Qianqiu. Under the twilight, he entered the Hundred Flowers Valley. Many people found it strange when they saw him. Where had all the masked rogue cultivators gone? Every time more than 600 people would return. It was truly a majestic sight. Why was there only one person left now? Ignoring the gazes of the crowd, Yu Qianqiu returned to the Hundred Flowers residence. He went upstairs and pushed open Ziyi's room. He realized that she hadn't returned yet. It had been 4 to 5 days since she last returned. He couldn't help but frown. He hoped that nothing bad had happened. Otherwise, Nongzhu would fight him to the death. Thinking about it, he felt relieved. With the heirs of the 4 major clans accompanying her, even if something happened, the 4 major clans would have their own ways of finding out immediately. For chasing one. He wondered if there would be a son-in-law that Nongzhu fancied among them. If Old Man Bai's descendants chased after Nongzhu's daughter, what would happen to their seniority? Would Nongzhu have to follow the 4 major clans and address Old Man Bai as her ancestor? Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but laugh at the thought of what might happen. He shook his head and went downstairs again. He ordered free food and drinks. Leaning against the window, he looked at the rising lights in the market and drank alone. Now that he had calmed down, he seemed to realize that something was missing. After thinking about it carefully, he realized that the stubborn girl was missing by his side. Bang! There was an explosion in the distant sky. Yu Qianqiu, who was a little absent-minded, suddenly became alert. He looked back and was slightly stunned. A splendid firework bloomed in the night sky with enchanting colors. Then a few more slowly rose and exploded in the sky one by one. Someone actually set off secular fireworks in the Hundred Flowers Valley? What a refined mood. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled. He raised his glass and drank a little, enjoying the fireworks with the wine. The crescent moon that appeared behind the fireworks was particularly lonely. There was a river below the fireworks. The heirs of the 4 major clans kept taking out fireworks from their storage bags and placed them on the riverbank. Ze held a burning incense that flickered in her hand. She lit up a bunch of colorful flames and couldn't hide the excitement on her face. The brilliance of the sky and the brilliance of the reflection on the river echoed from afar. It was indeed a romantic scene under the night sky. These fireworks were bought by the 4 of them when they went to the secular world for fun. They were the kind of one-eyed salutes that could climb very high after being set off. They didn't know how many they bought, but the 4 of them kept placing them on the ground for Ze to light. Many people in the 100 Flowers Valley were attracted by the fireworks. Gradually, many people gathered to watch from afar. Now that the war in the cultivation world had just begun, the atmosphere was tense. The sudden sight of this made people feel much more relaxed. "Miss Ze, try this one." Bai Zitsong held a firework that was as thick as a thigh and placed it on the ground. Ze took a new incense stick that Wu Liqing had lit up. She excitedly walked over and lit the fuse at the base. Bang! Even the ground slightly trembled. A bowl-sized ball of light rushed out and shot straight into the sky. Bang! It exploded and the gorgeous colors spread across the sky. The expressions of the people below were also clearly illuminated. So it's these guys. After Yu Qianqiu ate and drank to his heart's content, he saw that the fireworks were still going off. He put his hands behind his back and came to see who had nothing better to do after eating. He didn't expect to see the 4 young masters sucking up to Ze. "So beautiful," a woman murmured from the side. Yu Qianqiu turned his head and looked. Coincidentally, a firework exploded and light shot everywhere. The woman's face was right in front of his. When they saw each other clearly, they were both stunned. Chapter 405. Xianxia. Yu Qianqiu. Both of them were stunned. They didn't expect to meet under such circumstances. Then they looked at each other and smiled. An indescribable feeling lingered between the 2 of them. Yu Qianqiu smiled awkwardly. Back then on supporting Xian Island he was lonely, so he picked her up. His hands touched her all over, touching all the places that she shouldn't touch. It felt good. Then both of them left supporting Xian Island. When they met again, he purposely avoided her. So, although both of them were in the 100 Flowers Valley, they didn't see each other. Xianxia's faint smile was mixed with some bitterness. She could naturally feel that Yu Qianqiu was purposely avoiding her. Now that they met again, she wanted to ask why, but she didn't know how to ask. Bang! The fireworks exploded, releasing a gorgeous light. Both of them saw each other's faces clearly again. Not talking wasn't a solution. Yu Qianqiu touched his face and smiled awkwardly. "Why are you here?" "I saw someone set off fireworks, so I came to take a look." "What about you?" Xianxia asked. "I also came to take a look." Yu Qianqiu smiled. Their conversation was simple and empty. Then both of them fell into silence. They looked awkwardly at the place where the fireworks were set off. After a long time, Xianxia suddenly asked, "Is the woman who set off the fireworks the lady in purple dress who was with you? Do you know her?" Yu Qianqiu asked. "I don't." Xianxia shook her head lightly. Who doesn't know Yu Qianqiu's name in the cultivation world? Who doesn't know that Yu Qianqiu has a lady in purple dress with unfathomable cultivation? "You 2 are Dao companions?" We're dual cultivation Dao companions?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned and he hurriedly waved his hand and said, No. He thought in his heart, "That little girl probably doesn't even know what it means to go to bed now. Dual cultivation my ass." He pointed at Ze and the 4 young masters and said, "Can't you see anything?" When Xianxia heard this, she took a closer look and smiled. She could also tell that the 4 successors of the 4 great clans were pursuing Ze. If Ze was really Yu Qianqiu's Dao companion, how could he just stand there and do nothing? Turning her head, she smiled sweetly and said, "That lady in purple is also a stunning beauty. She has been by your side for a long time. Could it be that you have never been moved? Why did you allow others to pursue her?" Yu Qianqiu smiled bitterly and shook his head. He thought to himself, "That girl's father is not easy to deal with. It's better not to touch him. Besides, I already have a few good women. I'm already satisfied." Xianxia looked at him in a daze. The little disciple of supporting Immortal's island back then had already risen to fame. Could he continue his fate? Recalling the past, he couldn't help but ask, "You owe me something. Do you still remember?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned. "What do I owe you? Seems like you have forgotten." Yan Zixia looked at the sky and waited for a firework to explode. She smiled bitterly and said, "You promised to compose a song for me. If you really forgot, then forget it." Yu Qianqiu was speechless. Thinking about it carefully, he did casually promise her back then. He almost forgot about it. He didn't expect her to remember it. Dong 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 dong. While the two of them were speechless, suddenly, a melodious sound of a zither could be heard. Even the bang-bang of the fireworks couldn't cover its penetrative power. It clearly spread across the wilderness. It was obvious that the person who played the zither injected true essence into it. The two of them couldn't help but look at each other. They were just talking about a song and someone was playing the zither. Wasn't it too much of a coincidence? The people who were watching the fireworks looked towards the source of the sound. On the other side of the river, under the cold moon and the brilliant fireworks, there was a beautiful woman in a red dress sitting on a giant rock that had been standing for God knows how many years. Her face was covered by a red veil and there was a zither on her crossed legs. Her fingers were as delicate as jade, and the melodious sound of the zither could be heard. Although they couldn't see her face, judging from her demeanor, she must be an enchanting beauty. The people whispered to each other, not knowing where this mysterious woman came from. The few people who were setting off the fireworks stopped. The night sky returned to normal and only the sound of the zither could be heard. Zi looked at Bai Zitsong and the other three people with a questioning gaze. The latter shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know who it was. "I am a fox that has been cultivating for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of cultivation, 1,000 years of loneliness. In the dead of night, can anyone hear me crying? In the dim light, can anyone see me dancing?" The woman plucked the strings of the zither and hummed a rhythm. Her voice was faint and moving and it echoed across the wilderness. "Isn't this the song you composed?" Yan Zixia turned her head and asked. "I think it is," Yu Qianqiu stuttered. His facial expression kept twitching. It was so interesting. The others couldn't tell who the woman was, but he could. Even if he couldn't see her, he could tell from the voice. Who else could it be other than his master's wife, the enchantress of 100 charms? He just didn't know why she came here to play the zither in the middle of the night. Zi was suspicious when she saw the woman, but when she heard the song she couldn't hide the surprise on her face. Although she didn't know much about the world, Nongzhu was a master of music. Having been influenced for so many years, she could naturally tell the good from the bad. It was the first time for her to hear such a melodious and popular song. After singing a few lines, a sad story appeared in front of her. "Isn't this song from Ong Kwang Tsung White Fox?" Bai Zitsong looked at the woman under the moonlight and frowned. Zi asked, "You mean the song is called White Fox?" "I don't know, but many people say so." Bai Zitsong smiled. Zi nodded and said, "It's a very appropriate song name. Miss Zi, you probably don't know yet. It's said that this song was composed by Mr. Yu." Tan Fei smiled and said, "You mean Yu Qianqiu? He can compose music? How is that possible?" Zi was shocked. Then she shook her head and denied the rumor. Ever since she had known Yu Qianqiu, she had never seen that he had any talent in this area. It should be said that the man's words and actions were not even close to his ability to compose music. If he had half the demeanor of his master, she might have believed it. In short, it was impossible. In fact, this rumor had been around for a long time. But no one could imagine that Yu Qianqiu, who was known as a scum and a madman, could compose music and play the zither. Wu Liqing thought about it and couldn't help but laugh. He shook his head and said, "It's just a rumor after all. Rumors may not be true. I also don't think Mr. Yu would do it. There's also a song called Dream of Mandarin Ducks and Butterflies. It's also a rare classic. It's said that it was composed by Mr. Yu. If it was really composed by Mr. Yu, then..." He. Before Jingzhou finished his sentence, he and the others started laughing. They all thought it was a joke. Dream of Mandarin Ducks and Butterflies? Is it better than White Fox? Do you know how to sing it? Zi asked curiously. Just as she asked, the woman on the other side of the river finished her song. The melody of the zither changed. After the first song, another style of song was sung. "Yesterday was like the flowing water in the east, far away from me. Today my heart is in chaos, so much worry." Maybe it was because the song was really good, There were many fireflies flying around her in the silent night. They danced around her, adding to the beauty of the song. Jingzhou smiled and said, "Miss Ze, didn't you want to listen to Dream of Mandarin Ducks and Butterflies? Here it is." Ze heard him and opened her red lips slightly. Her eyes looked at the other side of the river. She was completely immersed in the melancholy melody and forgot to reply. The Enchantress of 100 Charms had extraordinary attainments in music. She played the rhythm of the song in a captivating manner. The listeners on the other side of the river were listening to her singing quietly. Xianxia's eyes kept darting around. He didn't know what she was trying to do by doing this. Suddenly, his eyes met with the Enchantress of 100 Charms, and a trace of slyness flashed across the latter's eyes. Xianxia felt that something was wrong. She might be targeting him, but he did not know what she was trying to do. When the song ended, the crowd heaved a sigh of relief. Suddenly the melody changed again. Although it was not as familiar as the previous two songs, the helpless feelings that came from the other side of the river were enough to stir people's hearts. Under the moonlight, the red lips moved and sang, "Don't talk about the past. Life is full of ups and downs. Even if you can't erase your memories, love and hate are still in your heart. If you really want to cut off the past and let tomorrow continue, you don't have to pester me anymore." The Enchantress of 100 Charms sang this song with great emotion. It was the first time the crowd heard it and they were amazed. Xianxia unconsciously crossed his arms in front of his chest. He squinted his eyes and mumbled in his heart, "What is she doing? Is she trying to hold a concert?" He turned his head to look at Xianxia. Seeing her infatuated face, Xianxia opened his mouth but he was speechless. He only felt goosebumps all over his body. Ziyi's eyes widened. She subconsciously pulled Bai Zizong and asked, "What's the name of this song?" Bai Zizong came back to his senses. He shook his head and said, "It sounds good but I've never heard it before. I don't know what it's called. Maybe I'm ignorant. Do you guys know?" He asked Wu Liqing and the other two. The three of them thought hard and shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know. Zi was a little disappointed. She wanted to ask the other side of the river, but she was afraid that she would disturb the other party's performance. She could only listen to the other side of the river quietly until the song ended. After the song ended, the Enchantress of 100 Charms pressed her hands on the strings to stop the lingering sound. She stood on the huge rock with the guqin in her arms. Under the moonlight, even the red veil could not hide her graceful figure. One of her hands gently pulled down the veil that covered half of her face. Her charming face was finally revealed in front of everyone. Those who knew her exclaimed, "The Enchantress of Enchanted Palace. So it's her. I was wondering why she looked so familiar. After the Enchantress of Enchanted Palace was wiped out, didn't she go into hiding? Why is she here to play the guqin?" The crowd whispered to each other in surprise. The Enchantress of 100 Charms looked around and giggled. "I've been hiding for so many years. I didn't expect so many people to recognize me. How rare." Xianxia was slightly stunned. She had revealed her identity again. It seemed that she wanted to come out openly. At this moment, a burst of laughter came from behind him. "I was wondering who was in the mood. So it's Palace Master Yi." Xianxia turned around and saw a group of people standing behind him. They were probably attracted by the sound of the guqin. Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Weiyun stood side by side. The one who laughed was Qiu Weiyun. He flashed over the crowd and landed in front of the huge rock across the river. "So it's the leader of 10,000 demons, Elder Qiu." The Enchantress of 100 Charms glanced at him. Her expression was indifferent and a little rude. The enchantment palace was destroyed, but the leader of 10,000 demons did not help. He was a little unhappy. Qiu Weiyuan smiled awkwardly. "Palace Master Yi, I haven't seen you for many years. I didn't expect you to be as powerful as ever. The war of the cultivation world has just begun and we need a master like you to join us." Xianxia nodded secretly. It was the first time he heard that the Enchantress of 100 Charms' surname was Yi. The enchantment palace is gone. What does the war of the cultivation world have to do with me? I don't want to participate in the war. I'm only here to visit a friend. The Enchantress of 100 Charms bluntly refused and turned to look at Xianxia. She resumed her charming smile and said, "I have lived in seclusion for many years and am fond of music. By chance I ran into the composer of The White Fox and the Mandarin Duck and Butterfly Dream, so I asked him for a song. Just now I played and sang love has become a thing of the past. Recently I suddenly heard that Sir appeared in 100 Flowers Valley again, so I came to pay a visit hoping to learn another song. Everyone followed her gaze. It was none other than Xianxia whose expression was twitching. They were in an uproar. Could it be that he really composed those songs? Zi by Zizong and the others turned around. They were still in disbelief when they saw it was Xianxia. Xianxia believed it without a doubt because she had seen it with her own eyes. She asked in a low voice, "The song just now was called Love is Past? Damn it! What was this woman trying to do?" Xianxia looked around and smiled at the Enchantress of 100 Charms. "Palace Master Yi, you're being too polite. It's just a joke. It's not worth asking for advice. I've come all the way here. Are you going to let me go home disappointed?" The Enchantress of 100 Charms laughed. Although it was a joke, Xianxia felt that there was a hint of threat in it which made him very unhappy. He looked at Xianxia beside him and thought to himself, "Forget it. I'll just take it as fulfilling my promise to her." He threw out a green flying sword and flew to the Enchantress of 100 Charms. He glared at her. The Enchantress of 100 Charms did not mind. She smiled charmingly and pushed the zither in her hand to him. She then gave way to him and floated to the bottom of the giant rock. Xianxia held the zither with one hand and looked at Xianxia. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Back then I promised someone that I would compose a song for her. Unfortunately, I've never fulfilled my promise. I'm ashamed that she asked me about it today. I'll just borrow your zither to fulfill my promise." He sat down with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes and pondered for a while. He randomly picked a song from his memory and brewed it. When he opened his eyes, his fingers were already playing the zither skillfully. The clear and refreshing sound of the zither weaved out a beautiful melody, and the people on the other side of the river were immediately stunned. Zhou Xian stared at the fingers that were playing the zither. He realized that it was not an act. His mouth turned into a circle. Bai Zizong and the other three looked at each other. They said that it was impossible just now, but it became a reality in the blink of an eye. Zi's mouth was opened so wide that an egg could be stuffed in it. It was unbelievable. Chapter 406. The temptress turned to the other side of the river, trying to find the person Xianxia promised, but it was hard to confirm. Others might not understand, but Xianxia did. The person Xianxia was talking about was her. Her beautiful eyes were slightly watery, but fortunately, it was hard for others to see it due to the dim moonlight. The melody was clear, and under the moonlight, it gave off a free and easy feeling. Xianxia looked around with a calm smile on his face and echoed the melody. "The world of mortals is funny, infatuation is the most boring, arrogance is good. This life is not over, but the heart has no worries, I just want to be free for the rest of my life. Smile to people when awake, forget everything in dreams, sigh that the sky darkens too early. The next life is unpredictable, love and hate are written off, I sing to wine, I only want to be happy until I grow old." The surprise on everyone's faces had turned into an attentive expression. The troubles in their hearts seemed to have dissipated along with the song. They were all immersed in it, and some even swayed left and right involuntarily with the melody. Was this the guy who was filthy and immoral? This guy actually had this side to him. Zhou Xian, who was below, was petrified on the spot with a blank face. Zi, who was on the other side, was completely dumbfounded. Elder Bai's disciple was indeed not an ordinary person. "The world of mortals is funny, infatuation is the most boring. Are you talking to me, comforting me? So you have always known my heart." Xianxia mumbled as if she was dreaming. The moonlight was dim, the river was flowing, the fireflies were dancing, and the breeze was cool. As he sang and sang, Xianxia also entered the state of mind. His expression was transcendent, and there was a faint smile on his face as he looked at the fireflies resting on his shoulder. They were singing to their heart's content under the moonlight. He said, "No matter how cold the wind is, I don't want to escape. No matter how beautiful the flowers are, I don't want them. The higher the sky, the narrower the heart. No matter how much karma there is, I get drunk alone. I cry today, I laugh tomorrow, I don't expect anyone to understand, I'm full of pride. The song is singing, the dance is dancing, the night is long, and the dawn is looking for happiness." After repeating the catchy melody a few times, everyone had already memorized it. Many people were humming it softly, realizing that this song could relieve their worries. Music will eventually come to an end and beauty cannot be preserved forever. The music slowly came to an end. Everyone was still immersed in the joy. Yu Qianqiu nodded slightly. It seemed that the performance was quite effective. Suddenly, he discovered that the Enchantress of 100 Charms was looking at him with a smile, full of ill intentions. He could not help but frown. Without saying a word, he picked up the zither on his knee and tossed it back to the other party. The Enchantress of Allure caught the zither that was rolling over and gently held it in her arms. Her face was filled with an enchanting smile as she let out a burst of bell-like giggles. She seemed to be very proud, which woke everyone up with a start. When everyone looked at Yu Qianqiu again, their gazes were filled with deep veneration. To be able to improvise such a beautiful and classic song, how many people in the world could do it? He was simply a heaven-sent genius. Zhou Xian smacked his lips and swallowed his saliva. He did not understand music, but he could intuitively tell that it was beautiful. Even a boorish person like him wanted to let go of everything and have a good time after listening to it. It was obvious that this song was extraordinary. Looking at Yu Qianqiu, he shook his head and exclaimed. This guy was not only good at acting shamelessly and fighting, but he could also play such a gentle song. It was really surprising. What a talent! What a gentle scum! Yu Qianqiu stood up and was about to leave when the Enchantress of 100 Charms asked with a smile, "Mister, are you going to leave like this? A good song needs a good name. Since Mister has left the song, you should at least tell us the name of the song." Everyone looked at Yu Qianqiu and nodded slightly. This thing was not a treasure. It was not like he could eat it if he kept it in his mouth. Without hesitation, Yu Qianqiu said, "Let's call it Xiao Hongqian." Xiao Hongqian? That Xiao Hongqian from Hongqian is so funny? Good name. The Enchantress of 100 Charms' eyes lit up and nodded in praise. Everyone else also whispered to each other. Yu Qianqiu took out a green flying sword from his long sleeve and stepped on it. The Enchantress of 100 Charms carried her zither and followed behind him. Yu Qianqiu looked back and immediately stopped in the air. The Enchantress of 100 Charms also stopped with a smile. "Palace Lord Yi, why are you following me?" Yu Qianqiu was surprised. The Enchantress of 100 Charms plucked the zither in her arms with a few fingers. After a few tinkles, she smiled and said, "Of course, to go back with Mister and continue to learn from you." It's too late. It's not convenient. Let's talk about it another day." Yu Qianqiu looked at the people below and said with a twitching face. The Enchantress of 100 Charms giggled and said, "Late? It's better if it's late. No one will disturb us in the dead of night. It's a good time to learn from you." Yu Qianqiu's body swayed and he almost fell off the sword. He looked at her translucent clothes and thought, "Masteress, you're playing with me. There are so many people below and you dare to say such obscure words. What will others think if you go back with me dressed like this?" Everyone below looked at each other in dismay. The Enchantress of 100 Charms was famous for her charm. Although no one had seen her affairs with their own eyes, her dissolute reputation had long been widely known in the cultivation world. Now this scum was suitable for a slut. Everyone thought so. Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu didn't know what the people below were thinking. Otherwise, he would have to summon the special forces and start a massacre. "Brat, you destroyed my pavilion. I haven't settled the score with you yet and you refuse to show me." The Enchantress of 100 Charms was smiling on the surface, but she was secretly threatening him with telepathy. Yu Qianqiu's face froze. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. His cultivation was not high enough, so he couldn't explain with telepathy. The two of them were in a stalemate in the air for a while. In the end, Yu Qianqiu gave way and flew into the 100 Flowers Valley dejectedly. The Enchantress of 100 Charms giggled and followed him. The next life is unpredictable. Love and hate are written off. Is this what you want to tell me? Xianxia, who was below, turned around in a daze and was still murmuring. Once this woman started to let her imagination run wild, anything could fit the situation. Even 10 bulls couldn't pull her back. No, 10,000 bulls couldn't pull her back. After watching the show, the crowd left happily. They couldn't help but sigh. They didn't expect Yu Qianqiu to have such a trick up his sleeve. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Miss C.E. Wu Liqing passed her another incense stick and said, "There are still many fireworks left. Let's continue." Yes, let's continue. Bai Zitsong and the other two agreed. They immediately took out fireworks from their storage pouches and started to place them on the ground. Zi took the incense stick and lit a fuse. She watched as a ray of light shot into the sky and exploded. Although the colors were still beautiful, she didn't have the mood to start. Her lips were slightly pouting, showing a lack of interest. She looked at the 4 men who were placing the fireworks. She couldn't help but compare them with Xianxia. Then she frowned and thought, as expected of the disciples of the aristocratic families. They only know how to play all day and follow behind women. What a loser. It seems that when I was with him I was always behind him. He was busy all day and I rarely saw him stop. I was fine with him. Why would I hang out with these vulgar people and play with children's things? So vulgar. Damn it. I've been with him for so long. He never told me that he knows how to play the guqin and compose music. Liar. Zi's pretty face turned cold. She threw the incense stick on the ground and turned to leave. Miss Zi, where are you going? There are many fireworks here. Bai Zitsong shouted. The other 3 were stunned. You guys play. I'm going back. Zi said without turning her head. We'll go with you. The 4 of them said in unison. Zi's face darkened. She turned around and shouted, Don't follow me. Then she left quickly. The 4 of them watched her figure disappear under the moonlight. When they came back to their senses, they couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't know why Zi suddenly lost her temper. They didn't know what Zi was thinking. If they knew, they would definitely shout that they were innocent. It's not that you wanted to play. Who would play with a cultivator? We're playing with you, but you're saying that we're vulgar. What happened? Did someone make her angry? Tan Fei was shocked. Wu Liqing shook his head. Who dared to make her angry? Maybe she's tired of playing with them. Zai. A woman's heart is so hard to understand. Beautiful women are even more so. Looks like we need to find something new. Bai Zitsong nodded in agreement. Jingzhu pointed at the fireworks on the ground. What about these? I still have a lot in my storage bag. It's not a good thing to keep these things in my storage bag. They could turn into explosives if something goes wrong. What else can we do? She asked us to play, so we'll play. Who knows what she's thinking? This woman is like a kid. Maybe she'll come back when she's interested. Wu Liqing squatted on the ground and lit up a bunch. Boosh. Bang. The fireworks rose into the sky. The other 3 looked at each other and lit some incense as well. The 4 of them played until midnight. When they thought that Zi wouldn't come back, they were so angry that they poured the rest of the fireworks in their storage bags into the river. On the other side, Yu Qianqiu and 100 Charms Beauty had just arrived at 100 Flowers' house. When they heard the fireworks exploding again, they only looked back. After entering, Yu Qianqiu knocked on the counter and said, Shopkeeper, prepare another empty room for me. Just as the shopkeeper nodded, 100 Charms Beauty smiled and said, There's no need. Yu Qianqiu turned around happily and said, Palace Master Yi, do you have something to do and have to leave? Do you want me to send you off? He was really afraid of her. It would be great if he could send her off. Who knew that as soon as he finished speaking, the 100 Charm Enchantress would secretly stretch out a sharp index finger and directly poke his waist, causing him to grimace in pain. What? Do you want to chase me away? 100 Charms Beauty smiled and said. No, you misunderstood. Yu Qianqiu clenched his teeth and said. 100 Charms Beauty looked up and nodded. It's good. I have something to talk to you about. Bring me to your room. That's not very convenient. Hiss. Just as Yu Qianqiu opened his mouth, he felt another sharp pain on his waist. He didn't dare to say anything else and quickly went upstairs. 100 Charms Beauty nodded and smiled at the shopkeeper. Then she followed Yu Qianqiu. The shopkeeper felt his bones become lighter. Chapter 407. When he reached the door, Yu Qianqiu hesitated and didn't open the door. He kept looking at both ends of the corridor as if he was afraid of being seen. The Allure Beauty swayed her hips as she walked over and asked, What's wrong? Nothing. Yu Qianqiu shook his head. The Allure Beauty stared at the door and asked in confusion, Then why don't you go in? Is there a woman hiding in there and you're afraid I'll find her? She pushed the door open and walked in. She looked around the room, even under the bed, but she didn't find anything suspicious. When she turned around, she saw him still standing at the door as if there was a ghost inside and he didn't dare to come in. Is this your room? The 100 Charms Enchantress asked. Seeing him nod his head in agreement, she couldn't help but ask curiously, Then why are you standing outside? She walked to the door and dragged Yu Qianqiu into the room, closing the door behind her. Yu Qianqiu staggered and looked back. His heart was pounding. He quickly walked to the window and opened it. He looked outside and said to himself, "The room seems a little stuffy." He stayed by the window and didn't move. No matter how he looked at it, he felt like jumping out of the window to escape. The Allure Beauty was slightly stunned and immediately understood what was going on. This bad guy was afraid of being molested by her. She immediately laughed and said, "Yo. Look at you, are you afraid that I'll eat you?" Xianxia was a little embarrassed by her words. He thought to himself, she's not afraid, so why should I be afraid? He looked outside the window and closed it. He walked to the round table in the middle of the room and sat down. He smiled bitterly and said, "Master's wife, what are you playing at? I'm looking for a reason to look for you openly. I'll also help you make a name for yourself in the cultivation world. If you have any complaints, you can only blame yourself for not greeting your master's wife when you come out. You're looking down on me too much. Could it be that you want to dump me after using me?" The Allure Temptress said coquettishly. Then she walked in front of him and put one hand on his shoulder. She leaned over and whispered in his ear, "What are you playing at this time? You're not going to play around and leave this time, are you? Why does it sound so ambiguous?" Xianxia felt the delicate body leaning against his back and was truly speechless. What the hell was going on? He said helplessly, "Master's wife, just say it. What do you want from me?" "Haven't I said it already? Of course I'm here to ask you, Mr. Xianxia." "Master's wife, don't joke around." After saying that, Xianxia wanted to stand up. However, a pair of slender hands pressed him back down. The Enchantress of Allure pinched his shoulders with just the right amount of strength and said in a sorrowful voice, "My magical fantasy palace no longer exists and now I'm all alone. If you think my craftsmanship is passable, then please accept me as a poor person. I'm willing to stay by your side and serve you." What kind of nonsense is this? Xianxia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked back and said, "Master's wife, please stop. I really don't have the fortune to enjoy it. If you need my help, just say it." At this time, footsteps stopped outside the door. The two of them stopped talking and laughed. Then there was a knock on the door. Ziyi shouted, "Xianxia." The fireworks were still going off. Why did this girl come back? Xianxia shrugged his shoulders and said, "Come in." However, the Enchantress of 100 Charms' hands refused to leave his shoulders. Instead, she began to knead more and more seriously, as if she was a servant that was being ordered around. Ziyi pushed open the door and entered. When she saw this scene, she was momentarily stunned. She turned around and closed the door. She directly sat in front of Xianxia and glared at the 100 Charms beauty who was behind him, massaging his shoulders. In terms of appearance, Ziyi was better than the Allure Beauty. However, in terms of femininity, Ziyi was far from it. The Allure Beauty's frown and movement were well trained. Even women would be moved by her, let alone men. Ziyi was like a green apple. It was a little bitter. The Allure Beauty was like a red strawberry. It was as if one bite would fill one's mouth with juice. Ziyi didn't care about these things. However, it was a woman's nature to love beauty. It was inevitable that they would compare each other. However, the Allure Beauty's unique charm was unparalleled. It made her feel inferior. Looking at the other party's graceful figure that was faintly discernible under the red muslin and the exposed snow-white chest, Ziyi subconsciously glanced at her own chest that was tightly wrapped. It didn't seem to be as perky as the other parties. "Ma. Palace Lord Yi, don't bother." Xianxia shrugged his shoulders and said awkwardly. The Allure Beauty giggled and said, "It's okay. I'm not afraid of trouble." She rubbed harder. Ziyi couldn't tell what was in her eyes. In short, it was very complicated. "Ziyi, weren't you going to set off fireworks? Why did you come back?" Xianxia asked with a bitter face. "Liar." Ziyi didn't answer his question. She looked angry. Xianxia and the Allure Beauty were stunned at the same time. The latter asked Xianxia, "What did you lie to her about?" "What's there to lie to?" Xianxia rolled his eyes. His body suddenly emitted a scorching heat. After forcing the Allure Beauty away, he stood up and asked "See, what's wrong with you? Who lied to you? Could it be those 4 guys?" He looked her up and down. He thought, oh my god, did she lose her chastity? Who dared to force themselves on Nongzhu's daughter? No, to lie to her? They must be tired of living. It doesn't look like it. It's you, you big liar. Ziyi stood up and shouted. She herself didn't know what was going on, but from the moment she came in and saw Yu Qianqiu and that scantily clad woman acting very intimately together, an indescribable fire surged in her heart. She couldn't explain why. The allure beauty looked at Yu Qianqiu with a smile. Her expression seemed to say, "I knew you were not a good person." Yu Qianqiu was stunned. "Me? What did I lie to you about?" He felt a little guilty. Did she know that I used her to make money? You can play the zither and compose music, but you never told me. If you aren't a liar, then what are you? Ziyi shouted. When the allure beauty heard this, the smile on her face froze. It was difficult for her to recover. Her mind was blank. Oh my God. Is this the legendary Ziyi who scared off 7 experts at the end of the Heavens test stage? Yu Qianqiu was also stunned. He asked suspiciously, "That's it? If I don't tell you, then I'm a liar? Then why should I tell you?" Ziyi paused. It seemed that she couldn't think of a better reason. However, the unknown fire in her hadn't subsided. She shouted in a far-fetched manner, "If you don't tell me, then you're a liar." Fine, fine, fine. I'm a liar. Are you satisfied now? Yu Qianqiu was too lazy to argue with her. If he didn't finish playing with a stubborn person, then what was the difference between him and an idiot? He might as well admit that he was wrong. Who asked him to be so kind-hearted? Ziyi was no match for him. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Thus she pointed the spearhead at the allure beauty and asked, "What is she doing here?" "Hey. This girl ate the wrong medicine today. 4 handsome men didn't make you happy?" Yu Qianqiu looked at her from head to toe. "From today onwards I will follow Mr. and serve him." The allure beauty explained on her behalf. She finally understood that although Ziyi's cultivation was high, her mind wasn't mature yet. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. However, the allure beauty transmitted her voice to him. "I'm quite well informed. With me by your side you might be useful in the future." "You still want someone to serve you?" Ziyi glared at him and said. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep." Yu Qianqiu felt a headache coming on from these 2 women. He let out a roar and walked over to the bed. He threw himself onto the bed and closed his eyes. He didn't care about anything else and just let them be. Ziyi's chest was rising and falling rapidly. She followed the bed and shouted, "Yu Qianqiu, you still haven't answered my question. Don't sleep." It was the first time she was ignored like this since she came from the South Sea. Even her master had never treated her like this. "Let's talk tomorrow. I don't want to talk anymore today." Yu Qianqiu closed his eyes and waved his hand weakly. The allure beauty walked over with a smile. She bent down and picked up Yu Qianqiu's leg. Yu Qianqiu suddenly propped himself up. He saw that she was taking off his shoes. She really did look like she was serving someone. What was this woman trying to do? Yu Qianqiu was speechless. He just closed his eyes and let her do whatever she wanted. The allure beauty nodded to Ziyi with a faint smile. She then took off her little red shoes and went onto the bed with her bare feet. Under Ziyi's dumbfounded expression, she sat beside Yu Qianqiu. She picked up one of his legs and placed it on her thigh. Then she started to knead it bit by bit. Yu Qianqiu moaned in comfort. He opened his eyes a little and quickly closed them again. His legs were full of elasticity and plump, which really made his imagination run wild. His heart was beating fast. Oh my God. How could I ask my master's wife to knead my legs? But I don't know anything. Ziyi was speechless. She stood aside and watched for a long time. Suddenly she heard Yu Qianqiu snoring on the bed. His face had an unusually comfortable expression. She really wanted to go over and kick him. Seeing how virtuous the allure beauty was, she bit her red lips and resisted the urge. Then she quietly retreated to the table and sat down. Late at night, the sound of fireworks outside stopped. The whole 100 Flowers Valley was unusually quiet. There was only the sound of Yu Qianqiu's even snoring in the room. Just like that, one of them kneaded his legs for the whole night, and the other sat aside and watched for the whole night. Ziyi's expression kept changing. No one knew what she was thinking. The next day, Yu Qianqiu, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his waist. He sat up with an sound. He saw the allure beauty looking at him with a smile. Obviously she was the culprit. Ziyi, who was standing by the window, heard the scream and turned around. Her face had already recovered its calmness. Chapter 408. The temptress got off the bed first. The white and tender skin under the red gauze was really pleasing to the eyes. Ziyi's eyes also flashed a trace of amazement. Being so close to her, she could see the graceful figure of the temptress from top to bottom. It was an irresistible temptation for both men and women. Yu Qianzhou glanced at the delicate body that left his side. He inhaled the lingering fragrance of the temptress and smacked his lips secretly. What a pity! Last night I wanted to close my eyes and enjoy this kind of intimate contact slowly. How could I fall asleep in a daze? It's so strange. He couldn't figure it out and got off the bed. He stretched himself and felt comfortable and refreshed. He found that he had never had such a good sleep. He couldn't help but look at the temptress in surprise again. It might have something to do with her massage. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen asleep in front of such a beauty. At least I wouldn't have fallen asleep so quickly. The air in the new morning couldn't dilute the abnormal atmosphere in the room. Yu Qianzhou looked at Ziyi, who didn't speak. Ziyi looked at the temptress, who was playing coquettishly by the window. It seemed that Ziyi paid special attention to every move of the temptress. She seemed to be observing and learning carefully. Really? Yu Qianzhou was slightly stunned. As the saying went, it was easy to learn bad things but hard to learn good ones. This thing couldn't be learned casually. If Ziyi with the charm of the temptress returned to the purple bamboo forest in the South Sea, Nongzhu would definitely come to see him with a butcher's knife. Go down and eat something. Yu Qianzhou opened the door and walked out. The temptress touched her hair, nodded and smiled at Ziyi and then followed him out. Ziyi followed her. Looking at the temptress's graceful body swaying with charm, and then looking at herself, she slightly pouted and seemed to be a little disappointed. When the customers in the 100-flower house saw the three people coming down from upstairs, almost all of their gazes were focused on the graceful enchantress. She walked down leisurely like a lotus, and her every frown and movement was infinitely charming, attracting everyone's gazes. Ziyi also looked at her with a trace of envy. Yu Qianzhou looked around and bitterly smiled. He envied everyone else for being able to look at the beauties without any restraints. However, he had many misgivings and did not dare to do so. He didn't know that God was playing a joke on him. He sent two beauties to his side, but he couldn't eat them. How depressing. What he didn't know was that everyone was envious of him. They envied him for being able to take on two people at once. One was the famous enchantress of 100 charms, and the other was the rarely seen purple dress. Both were stunning beauties. Just as the three of them found a seat by the window and sat down, they saw footsteps outside. Many people were running towards the back of the mountain, and there were even people flying across the sky on swords. Yu Qianzhou looked around and frowned slightly. The back mountain was where the 100-flower palace was. Could something have happened to the 100-flower palace? Temptress Yu Qian Mountain yelled. Ingli temptress he to say. He to the temptress and said. But, damn it. I gave you face but you don't want it. Yu Qianzhou was immediately infuriated. Coincidentally, another person ran over. Without saying a word, he kicked out and sent that person flying. Temptress and Ziyi looked at each other. Yu Qianzhou walked over and grabbed the person who was groaning in pain. He asked, "Do you know me?" The man slowly came back to his senses and was about to flip out, but after he saw clearly who it was, he repeatedly nodded in panic and said, I know. Yu Qianzhou pulled his lapel and shouted in a deep voice, "What are you panicking for? What happened?" "I don't know. I heard that Yan Bugui came back with his people. They are in a stalemate outside the 100 Flowers Valley. The Cultivation Alliance is gathering all the disciples in the 100 Flowers Valley." That person said with fear. "Why did this guy come back?" Yu Qianzhou frowned and let go of him. That person ran away. On a gentle slope in the back of the mountain, the 100 Flowers Palace was located. Outside was a sea of flowers. It was supposed to be a place where hundreds of flowers were blooming. But now it was ruined by a group of people who didn't follow the rules. This was the second time. Dongfang Chang'eo looked serious. He held his spear and guarded outside the 100 Flowers Palace. The Cultivation Alliance didn't expect that Yan Bugui would take his people to the 100 Flowers Valley when the war had already begun. This was a terrible thing. Most of the masters of the Cultivation Alliance had been transferred away. The rest were mostly second-rate masters of the various sections. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiuwen were left to take charge of the affairs of the righteous and demon sects. Their cultivations were higher. On Yan Bugui's side, it was basically the same group of people as last time. There were more than 50 people and all of them were above the tribulation passing stage. What was more terrifying was that there were 2 masters at the end of the tribulation passing stage. Although the Cultivation Alliance had a lot of people, they were no match for the other side. Although there were some masters in the 100 Flowers Palace, they were originally Yen Bugui's subordinates. It was good that they didn't go with him. How many people dared to attack him? At this time, Qiu Wuyan was blocking in front of Yen Bugui and begging. Yen Bugui probably gave him some face. Otherwise he would have rushed in. Now no one could stop him. Dongfang Chang'o looked around with a cold face. He felt that something was missing. Xiong Hui behind him asked nervously, "Elder Dongfang, doesn't Yu Qianchou still have a group of people under him? Do you want me to call them over?" That's right. Yu Qianchou himself was an expert. Not to mention, Zi and 100 Charms Enchantress were by his side. Although those loose cultivators were useless, it was always better to have more people. There was also a tribulation passing stage among them, right? Dongfang Chang'ao's eyes lit up. No wonder he felt that something was missing. He nodded and allowed Xiong Hui to leave. At this time he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. That little disciple of his that he wouldn't even look at in the eye had become quite important now. In fact, Xiong Hui's trip was in vain. On a mountain not far from here, behind a few big trees, Yu Qianchou and the 2 girls were watching the situation. Yu Qianchou frowned deeply. Normally, he did not want to interfere in this matter because Yen Bugui had many experts under him. Even if he called out the special forces, even if they won, the special forces would inevitably suffer heavy losses. After all, he had used his own spirit stones to build them up. Unless the benefits outweighed the disadvantages, it was better not to use them. But I also promised Ma Jiugu to protect Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter, so I'll just wait and see. If the mother and daughter are fine, I'll just stay put. I don't care about anything else. Qiu Wing, get out of the way, don't force me to do it, Yen Bugui shouted. It seems like his patience was running out. Qiu Wing smiled bitterly and said, "Eldest senior brother, why are you doing this? Why do you have to involve the mother and daughter in your matters? Besides, they are not willing to go with you. Could it be that you want to use force against them? Whether they want to or not, I'll have to ask them first. This is my family's business, get out of my way. Eldest brother, why are you so unwise? Are you really so sure that you will win? What if you fail? Why do you want them to follow you and risk the world's wrath? Who would dare to protect them?" Qiu Wuyan tried his best to persuade him. The meaning behind his words was very clear. The mother and daughter pair are very safe here. It wouldn't be too late to take them away after you win. Yen Bugui coldly laughed. "I'm afraid that if you lose, the mother and daughter pair will become your hostages. You're trying so hard to stop us husband and wife from seeing each other. Have you already put them under house arrest?" The last part of his sentence was very serious. So this was the reason why he tried so hard to take Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter away. Qiu Wing was a bit surprised. "Eldest brother, what do you mean by that? Even if the entire Chinese cultivation world loses to you, who from the righteous and evil path would dare to take the mother and daughter pair as hostages? Not only our 10,000 demons wouldn't agree, even Fuxian Island wouldn't agree. That was then, this is now, in a moment of life and death, who would care about the mother and daughter pair?" Yen Bugui spoke in a low voice. "Eldest brother, what you're saying, could it be that you don't even trust Shifu? Could it be that Shifu would harm his own granddaughter? How could Guan Dinghai of Fuxian Island easily take his granddaughter as a hostage?" Qiu Wing shook his head and smiled bitterly. Yen Bugui's expression was uncertain. "They'll be the safest if they follow me. As long as we're alive, they'll be safe. Otherwise, I won't be at ease no matter who has them. Qiu Wing, seeing that we're fellow disciples, I've already done my best. Today, no matter what, I'll take them away with me. Don't force me to attack you, get out of my way. Without the decree of Shifu and sect master, I can't back down." Qiu Wuyuan slowly retreated. He knew that it was useless to continue persuading him. It seemed like he was ready to fight to the death. Yen Bugui's expression slowly turned ferocious. The conversation below was clearly heard by the 3 people behind the tree on the hilltop. Zi did not feel anything, but the allure demon's expression when she looked at Yen Bugui was a little moved. For a woman to be able to meet such a man, it was the dream of most women. She was also a woman who had such a dream. Yu Qianchou rubbed his chin in thought. He didn't expect Yen Bugui to be such a family-oriented person. For his wife and daughter, he risked his life to enter the hinterland of China's cultivation world twice. Ma Jugu's choice back then was not wrong. It seemed like Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter wouldn't be in any danger even if they left with him. The most important thing now was whether they were willing to go with him. If they were willing, that would be great, but if they weren't, conflict would be unavoidable. But they probably wouldn't go with him. Most women cared about their family, and Bai Hua Fairy was also a woman. How could she go against Fuxian Island, her family? That might not be the case. The battle between family and love was never set in stone. Young women were easily impulsive while men were easily hesitant. Big men were often the opposite. At that time, men were the most likely to lose their rationality. They might even abandon their country for a smile. That's why in the past life, there was a saying that husband and wife were birds in the same forest. He hoped that his guess was wrong. That way he wouldn't have to work so hard. While Xianxia was thinking, his eyes suddenly lit up. From the Bai Hua Palace, Xianxia accompanied a dignified, elegant, and exceptionally beautiful woman. The woman was so beautiful that people didn't dare to look at her directly. Her beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city. Needless to say, this woman must be Bai Hua Fairy without a doubt. Xianxia sighed to himself. Women with the title of fairy in the cultivation world really couldn't be compared to ordinary beauties. The Jade Flower Fairy from before was like this, and now Bai Hua Fairy is also like this. What a pity. All the good cabbages are taken by pigs. Chapter 409. Seeing Bai Hua Fairy leisurely walking towards them as well as Xianxia next to her, Yan Wuchen excitedly walked forward, calling out, "Madam, Xixia, stop." Dongfang Chang'ao shouted and pointed the spear in his hand at Yan Wuchen, stopping him a few meters away. "Dongfang Chang'ao, you dare to stop my family from reuniting. Today I will take your head to vent my anger." Yan Wuchen shouted. A green light shot out from his inventory bag with a xiu sound. It shot towards Dongfang Chang'ao like lightning. Dongfang Chang'ao's expression darkened, quickly raised his spear with both hands, but as soon as the tip of the spear was covered in golden light, a black light shot out even faster with a ping sound. It knocked the green light away. One black and one green quickly returned. Dongfang Chang'ao held his spear to protect himself, glancing to his side, only to see a 1-meter-long crescent-shaped black magic weapon floating in front of Qiu Wuyan, slowly rotating in the air. The curved blade had a black glow, spirit energy and killing intent coexisting. It was clearly a top-notch magic weapon. Yan Wugui caught the emerald flying sword, staring at the crescent-shaped magic weapon in front of Qiu Wuyan, shouting in shock. "Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyan, how did it end up in your hands?" When everyone saw Qiu Wuyan's magic weapon, they all felt it was a bit strange, but when they heard Yan Wugui's words they were also shocked. A few hundred years ago, when the sect leader of 10,000 demons Yan Wuchen dominated the world, he had a high-tier magic weapon that struck fear into the hearts of the cultivators. Wasn't it called the Black Moon Pagoda? That was a peerless weapon at that time. Countless cultivators died under Yan Wuchen's Black Moon Pagoda. Ever since the leader of 10,000 demons retired, no one in the cultivation world has seen it again. Who would have thought that it would appear in Qiu Wuyuan's hands today? It was the first time for Dongfang Chang'ao to see any of the Chinese cultivators present. Dongfang Chang'ao looked at Qiu Wuyuan in surprise. Why did Yan Wuchen give him his personal treasure? Yan Bugui's expression was a little sluggish. Behind him, the old man in embroidered robes and the old man in linen robes also looked at each other. Although they were foreign cultivators, they had also heard of the fearsome name of the Black Moon Pagoda. Black Moon Pagoda? What kind of treasure is it? Xianxia looked at the gadget and turned to look at the Enchantress of 100 Charms. He was not very experienced and had never heard of such a thing. The Allure Beauty understood what he meant. Her expression turned solemn as she transmitted her voice. The Black Moon Pagoda is said to be the most lethal weapon of the Devil Dao. Its exact origin is unknown, but it seems that Yan Wuchen's father obtained it by chance. After it fell into Yan Wuchen's hands, it became infamous in the cultivation world. Back then there was a saying, "Under the pagoda, all are dead souls." It was said that no one who fought with Yan Wuchen could survive under his Black Moon Pagoda. This shows how powerful this treasure is. What a great treasure. Xianxia looked at Qiu Wuyuan again. He couldn't help but think of the day when Yan Wuchen didn't give him any face and slapped Qiu Wuyuan in front of everyone. At that time Qiu Wuyuan was as obedient as a child. Who would have thought that after suffering in front of everyone he would receive such a great benefit? He then looked at the mother and daughter. Xianxia was biting her lips, staring at her father without saying a word. Bai Hua Fairy was even more indifferent as she looked at the distance. She didn't say a word. No one knew what she was thinking behind her calm face. This family is a bit interesting. They even dragged me into this. What the hell? Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Eldest brother, you didn't see wrong. This is Master's personal treasure, the Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyan bowed sincerely towards the direction of the 10,000 demons. Wuyan was adopted by Master when I was young. He personally taught me and treated me like his own son. I have always treated Master as a strict father. However, Yuan's talent is limited. Master has always favored me. First he gave me the 4 generals of the demon family. Then he gave me his personal treasure, the Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyan cannot repay Master's kindness even if he dies 10,000 times. Shut up. Yan Bugui shouted. His face was twisted. The Yan family's descendants have not died yet. This Black Moon Pagoda is not the treasure of the 10,000 demons. It is our Yan family's inherited treasure. How can we give it to an outsider? Give it back. He was really asking for it without any hesitation. Qiu Wuyan shook his head. Eldest brother, Master already knew that you would say something like this. He told me to pass on a message to you when I see you again. Hearing that his father had something to tell him, Yan Bugui's eyes flickered. What message? This is what Master said. Eldest senior brother, listen carefully. Qiu Wuyan smiled bitterly. He said slowly, I originally had a son and a foster son. My son betrayed the 10,000 demons. He abandoned the Yan family's painstaking efforts and gave the 4 generals of the demon family to my foster son. My son betrayed the cultivation world of Wuxia and gave the Yan family's inherited treasure to my foster son. Unfilial son. Are you ashamed? Since you have the ability to betray us again and again, you should have the ability to fight for your own things. The Yan family's things do not belong to you. Don't ask for it shamelessly. When if he dares to ask for it from you, tell him everything I said. Let's see if he can face the ancestors of the Yan family. Yan Bugui felt like he was struck by lightning. He looked at Qiu Wuyan with a pale face. He knew that Qiu Wuyan would not lie in front of everyone. These words were undoubtedly from his father. Qiu Wuyan said helplessly, Eldest brother, these are Master's original words. I didn't change a single word. Palace Master Yan, don't lose your composure. With Palace Master Yan's spirit, the 10,000 demons can only restrain you. How can you fulfill your ambitions? When you control the entire cultivation world of Wuxia in the future, who would dare to say a word against you? The old man in brocade robe chuckled. He looked at the old man in linen robe beside him. This time, Yan Bugui returned to the 100 Flowers Valley. Although it was because he missed his wife and daughter, there were 2 people behind it. The headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance was empty. If they took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, even if they could not cause great losses to the cultivation world of Wuxia, they could still greatly damage their morale and bring invisible benefits to the battle ahead. Otherwise, who would have nothing better to do and come all the way here to fight for his wife? They were not really his subordinates. The 2 of them looked at the increasing number of cultivators from Wuxia and smiled. One disagreement would be the beginning of a massacre. The more casualties they caused, the more they could damage the morale of the Cultivation Alliance, and the more advantageous it would be for the battle ahead. Shut up. Qiu Wuyan shouted at the old man in brocade robe. My eldest brother's current situation was instigated by you too. You have the ambition of wolves and evil intentions. How dare you speak so arrogantly here? The old man in brocade robe raised his eyebrows and chuckled. I'm not your eldest brother. If you talk too much, you might lose the Black Moon Pagoda and your head. I'll give face to Palace Master Yan for now. I hope you won't say anything to anger me again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. How dare you? Dongfang Chang'ao shouted, holding his spear in one hand and standing next to Qiu Wuyan. The 2 of them exchanged glances. Although they've been enemies for many years, they have a tacit understanding. They've already given up on the righteous and demonic paths and are ready to fight side by side. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I won't be polite. The old man in brocade robe smirked. His hands came out from behind his back. He finally had an excuse to act. Chang'ao Wu Yuan, stand down. A slightly dignified female voice was heard. Dongfeng Chang'ao and Qiu Weiyun turned around, only to see the beautiful Bai Hua fairy was already walking towards them. The two of them were a bit surprised, exchanged glances but didn't say anything. They only slightly bowed and stood on her left and right, on high alert to prevent any mishaps. Bai Hua fairy coldly stared at the old man in brocade robe, her tone frigid. "Who are you, daring to provoke my Bai Hua palace? Are you trying to bully us mother and daughter because our Bai Hua palace doesn't have a man to lead it?" Her man is right in front of her, yet she still dares to say such words. Yu Qianqiu, who was hiding in the shadows, shook his head. Not only is this woman beautiful but she's also very smart. No wonder Bai Hua palace isn't led by Yan Bugui but by her. Her words are so sharp that they cut straight to the heart. "But you want me to protect her? I think it's more like she's protecting me." Ma Jiugu is going in the opposite direction. Sure enough, when the old man saw Bai Hua fairy's beauty, his eyes filled with admiration, was stunned, speechless. He immediately turned around to look at the pale-faced Yan Bugui. This woman's words are trying to drive a wedge between them. If I argue with her, Yan Bugui might turn against me. Although I'm not afraid of turning against him, now's not the time to do so. I still need his cooperation. The brocade-robed old man remembered that Man Hu and his fellow brothers must have taken some kind of wrong medicine. They're all dead set on following the Yan father and son. His expression couldn't help but twitch a bit. As he retreated, he said, "Bai Hua fairy truly lives up to her name." Dongfeng Chang'ao and Qiu Weiyun exchanged glances. Even their combined efforts couldn't scare them away, but they were all taken care of by Bai Hua fairy with just a few words. People really can't be compared to each other. Bai Hua fairy's beautiful eyes looked around, scowling. "My 100 Flowers Valley used to be a peaceful place, but now it's a mess. This palace doesn't welcome you. Get out of 100 Flowers Valley immediately." Saying so, she coldly turned around and walked away. "Mu Shui, listen to me." Yan Bugui raised his hand and shouted. Dongfeng Chang'ao and Qiu Weiyun immediately blocked his way. Qiu Weiyun shook his head. "Eldest brother, sister-in-law has made it very clear, you should go back." "Mu Shui," Yu Qianqiu muttered, then turned around to look at the 100 Charms beauty. The latter smiled and sent her voice. "Bai Hua fairy's real name is Guan Mu Shui." Yu Qianqiu nodded in understanding. The 100 Charms beauty sent her voice again. "Now you know the benefits of having me by your side." Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes. "Who the hell knows what you're thinking?" Hearing that, Bai Hua fairy stopped and turned around to look at Yan Bugui. Ever since they came out, this was the first time she looked at him directly. Her face was expressionless. "Listen to you? Listen to what you say. You've lied to me for so many years. Don't tell me you think it's not enough and want to keep lying? Am I Guan Mu Shui so easy to bully in your eyes? Forget it, I don't want to talk about the past anymore. I'm tired and I don't want to hear anymore. If you still care about the past, then return peace to my 100 Flower Valley and leave with your people." After saying that, he turned around again. Chapter 410. Mu Shui, do you still remember the time before Bai Hua Palace was established when we had no one to rely on? Yan Bugui loudly shouted. Hearing that, Bai Hua fairy stopped again, but this time she didn't turn around. Seeing that she had stopped, Yan Bugui said in a loud and emotional voice, "Back then it wasn't easy for you and I to be together and we faced so much resistance. Although we were ridiculed and scolded, we still persevered. Before Bai Hua Palace was established, did the 10,000 demons or Fuxian Island care for us? No. No one cared if we lived or died. It wasn't until you and I worked so hard to establish this Bai Hua Palace that we managed to gain a foothold in the cultivation world. How could outsiders understand the hardships we went through?" Bai Hua fairy didn't move, she didn't leave, nor did she turn around. Perhaps she was also thinking about the hard times back then. Dongfeng Chang'ao and Qiu Weiyun exchanged glances. Both of them knew about it. Back then, Fuxian Island and 10,000 demons were pressured by both the righteous and evil path. Even their sect masters Guan Dinghai and Yan Wuqian had to take the blame and step down, so who would care about them when they were in a fit of anger? For a very long time, they really didn't lend a helping hand to the two of them, leaving them to fend for themselves. It wasn't until Bai Hua Palace became the trading hub of China's cultivation world that the two great sects secretly re-established their relationship with it. Then again, if the two of them didn't have the backing of the number one sect in the righteous and evil path, it would have been even more difficult for them to establish their own sects in the cultivation world. Back then I told you that one day I won't let anyone look down on you anymore. Perhaps you think it was only in the heat of the moment that I uttered those words. But I took it as a vow and I've always been fighting for it. Thus, I've been working hard in secret for 100 years, but who knew that it would be destroyed by that fellow Xianxia? Otherwise, the vow I made would just be around the corner. Hearing him mention Xianxia, Zi looked at Xianxia curiously. He had never heard of this. She didn't know what Xianxia had done to destroy the plan that Xianxia had painstakingly worked on for 100 years. She saw Xianxia's mouth split open, looking like he was in great pain as he smiled at her. His smile was very ugly. On the other side, the Enchantress of 100 Charms was silently poking his waist with a finger. Yan, why are you dragging me into the matter between you and your wife? Your wife and I didn't cheat on you. Xianxia gritted his teeth and endured the pain. The Enchantress of 100 Charms had a bad habit. She liked to poke people with her fingers at the slightest provocation. One day he would let her have a taste of her pain. Everything I've done is for you. Don't tell me I'm not worthy of your forgiveness? Yan Bugui extended his hand and said, Mu Shui, come with me. If it was really for me, you should have told me earlier. You wouldn't have kept it a secret for 100 years. Bai Hua Fairy didn't turn around and continued walking. Don't you know me? I've given up everything to be with you. I've never disagreed with any of your decisions. After I found out, I would only support you and not drag you down. Yet you kept it a secret from me. Clearly, you've always been on guard against me. I didn't want to make you worry, I didn't want you to work too hard, Yan Bugui loudly explained. We both understand each other. Whether or not it's an excuse, you should understand. There's no need to explain anything else. Just take your people and leave. I don't want to see you again. Bai Hua Fairy still didn't turn around. Yan Zixia followed on the side, silently obeying her. Occasionally she would look back. On one side was her father and on the other side was her mother. What else could she do? The brocade-robed old man and the linen-robed old man exchanged glances and nodded. The former sent his voice to Yan Bugui. Palace Master Yan, your madam has already made up her mind. I think it would be better if we forcefully kidnap the mother and daughter back to Everlasting Island. The daughter is mother's flesh and blood. It would be better if the young palace master comes out to persuade them. Otherwise, they'll eventually become hostages in the hands of the Cultivation Alliance. At that point we'll be stuck. Yan Bugui sent his voice back. That's not a good idea. She has a strong personality. I'm afraid that she'll do something that she won't be able to regret. Palace Master Yan, if you can't make a decision, you have to make a decision quickly. How about this? As long as you agree, my junior brother and I will act together to guarantee that we'll kidnap the mother and daughter, not giving them a chance to harm themselves. What do you think? The brocade-robed old man continued to persuade him. Seeing that Bai Hua Fairy had already entered the palace gate, Yan Bugui gritted his teeth and sent his voice back. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Chong and Senior Feng to ensure their safety. The brocade-robed old man's face lit up, nodded to the linen-robed old man and suddenly shouted, Kill! As soon as the order was given, the two old men behind Yan Bugui had already disappeared. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiuwen were both shocked and shouted at the same time, Not good. The two of them quickly flew back into Bai Hua Palace, but compared to a Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivator's teleportation, their speed was too slow. Bai Hua Fairy probably didn't think that Yan Bugui would order people to use force on her. Hearing the commotion behind her before she could even react, the acupuncture point on her back was instantly struck. A powerful surge of true essence rushed into her body, cutting off any chance of resistance. Yan Zixia was also the same. Xianxia, who was hiding in the shadows, thought that Yan Bugui was deeply in love with his wife and wouldn't use force, but he didn't expect this to be the case. He didn't expect the foreign cultivators to instigate Yan Bugui. The Bai Hua Palace disciples guarding the palace gate were shocked and immediately attacked the two old men with their flying swords. But with their cultivation, this kind of action is nothing but child's play for a Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivator. The two of them unleashed a powerful wave of true qi to knock the flying swords away. Several disciples screamed in pain, spat out blood as they were sent flying and died on the spot. Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia's shoulders were being held down. They couldn't even move their fingers. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiuwen, who just arrived, saw that the mother and daughter were being restrained by the two Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivators, so they didn't dare to act rashly. The brocade-robed old man smiled at the two of them. I know you two are the ones in charge here. Tell your people to stop. Otherwise these two beauties are going to suffer. Screams and screams could be heard outside. The group of foreign cultivators had already started a massacre. The Cultivation Alliance's members who stayed behind were all mixed in cultivation, so how could they be a match for them? They were all killed in just a few moves. But facing a foreign enemy, their blood was roused and they all charged forward without fear of death. Even if they were afraid of death, there was no way to escape. If they ran away from this battle, there would probably be no place for them in the world. Blood was boiling everywhere. In the blink of an eye, many people had already given up their lives. Such a heroic scene caused Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan to look at each other, then quickly made the decision to retreat. The brocade-robed old man used the mother and daughter to threaten them, but it didn't work at all. Not only did the two of them not tell the Cultivation Alliance to stop, they even gave up on the safety of Baihua Ferry and Xianxia. Their anger turned into endless killing intent as they returned to the battlefield with all their might. Ah! Dongfang Chang'ao shouted angrily as he thrust his spear forward. Below, a foreign tribulation realm early-stage cultivator, who had just used a flying sword to take the lives of two people, sneered and was about to summon his sword to kill again. Suddenly he heard a loud roar from the sky. When he looked up, a golden spear had directly knocked away his flying sword and was heading towards him. He was scared out of his wits and hurriedly tried to escape. But how could Dongfang Chang'ao let him go? Relying on his superior speed, he raised his spear and cut him in half, sending his head flying. Dongfang Chang'ao didn't stop. He turned around with his spear and looked for another person to fight. On the other side, Qiu Wuyuan was even more ferocious than Dongfang Chang'ao. The Black Moon Pagoda danced around his body like a ghost, following him wherever he went. Every time he attacked, he would destroy the opponent's magic tools or magic treasures. Then the Black Moon Pagoda moved like a phantom, reaping the opponent's life with lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, Qiu Wuyuan had taken the lives of 3 tribulation passing stage cultivators. The Black Moon Pagoda was indeed the most ferocious weapon of the diabolism. It was indeed powerful. With such power, when the foreign tribulation passing stage cultivators saw Qiu Wuyuan rushing towards them with the Black Moon Pagoda, they quickly dodged it. One of them was holding the Golden Origin Spear, while the other was carrying the Black Moon Pagoda. They fought fiercely and were stained with blood. They killed more than 10 people in a row, which greatly boosted the morale of their side. The people of the Cultivation Alliance immediately fought back with all their might. Although they knew that they were going to die, their morale was high. They only wanted to entangle the other foreign cultivators and wait for Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan to come and avenge them. This scene caused Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan's eyes to turn red. They roared in anger and grief. The golden light and the black shadow would not stop until one of them was dead. The old man was stunned by this sudden change. He knew that these two were the strongest among the people on the other side, and seeing how respectful they were towards Baihua Fairy, he decided to use the lives of Baihua Fairy and her daughter to threaten them. But who would have thought that at this crucial moment, they wouldn't even care about their threats. The two of them tacitly turned around and killed without any hesitation, causing so many people on their side to run away. He really didn't expect the two of them to be so strong. The tribulation passing stage cultivators he brought with him were all killed without being able to fight back. From this, it could be seen that the two of them were indeed people sent by the number 1 sects of the righteous and diabolism. They were not simple. Yan Bugui stood alone outside the battlefield, watching his junior brother fight with his life on the line, as well as a group of Chinese cultivators fighting angrily. He suddenly felt his hands and feet go numb. He had always thought that all Chinese cultivators were selfish and that the so-called righteousness was nothing but a joke. He never thought that he would see such a scene. He even doubted that with the help of a group of foreign cultivators, could he really unify the entire Chinese cultivation world. He was originally full of confidence, but now his willpower was shaken. Looking at the restrained Baihua Fairy and Xianxia, he saw that the two of them had both turned away from the cruel battlefield, their eyes filled with grief and indignation, staring at him. Xianxia's eyes were filled with tears. The hatred in her eyes made him shudder. Yan Bugui had never seen his daughter look at him like that before. The brocade-robed old man was originally controlling Baihua Fairy, but right now his face was pale as he put his hand on Xia's shoulder and spoke in a low voice. "Junior brother, leave this to me, you go kill those two for me." Chapter 4:11. Zi had never seen such a scene before. She didn't know what righteousness was, but she felt an inexplicable sadness that she had never felt before. The temptress lost all her charm at this moment, and her body was trembling uncontrollably. She decided to join the battle, but just as she took a step forward, her arm was grabbed by Yu Qianqiu. Although she told Qiu Wuyuan that the war in the cultivation world had nothing to do with her, she actually believed that by staying by Yu Qianqiu's side, she would be able to better use his hidden strength. When she glanced at him, she saw that he was looking down expressionlessly, unbelievably calm. She instantly felt a chill in her heart. She didn't expect him to just stand by and watch. Just stand by and watch, don't grab me. The temptress's face was as cold as frost. Why are you so agitated? Yu Qianqiu didn't have the respect a disciple had for his mistress. He snorted coldly and said, "What a woman's view. No wonder the illusion palace was destroyed in your hands. Those who don't plan for the world can't plan for a moment, and those who don't plan for the overall situation can't plan for a region. So what if some people die? Don't tell me that you, the master of a palace, don't know the principle of mercy not leading an army? I'm here, why are you panicking?" Zi didn't know so many principles, but she looked at the temptress in deep thought. In fact, she didn't know what to do in such a situation. She felt that Yu Qianqiu was right to say such nice words. The temptress was stunned. She didn't expect that Yu Qianqiu would dare to use the manly way on her. But strangely, she felt that it was very useful. She looked at her arm that was being grabbed by him, and the frost on her face disappeared. She thought, as long as you don't just stand by and watch. Yu Qianqiu had been paying attention to what was happening below. When he saw that the old man in linen had handed over control of Xianxia to the old man in embroidered robes, he quickly glanced at Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wing. His eyes narrowed and he pointed at the old man in linen robes. "See, keep an eye on him. If he dares to make a move, stop him immediately and kill him without mercy." Zi nodded heavily and said, "N." Then a piece of purple-black bamboo appeared in her hand. Hearing this, the enchantress of 100 Charm immediately felt much more at ease. Sure enough, as soon as the old man in linen handed over the man, he shot towards Qiu Wing. Zi teleported and disappeared almost at the same time. Qiu Wing, who was in the midst of fighting, was shocked when he heard the sound of something flying towards him. He knew that a top-notch expert had arrived. Taking the opportunity to look back, he felt that something was wrong. There was a world of difference between an expert in the final phase of the tribulation stage and a cultivator in the middle phase of the tribulation stage. Although he had the Black Moon Pagoda, he was not arrogant enough to fight against an expert in the final phase of the tribulation stage. On the other side, Dongfang Chang'eo also shouted a warning, "Be careful, Qiu Wuyuan." He also brandished his spear and rushed over to lend a hand. Otherwise, if Qiu Wuyuan was defeated, he would not be able to save Qiu Wuyuan alone. However, his opponent also understood that once the old man in linen robes dealt with Qiu Wuyuan, his next target would definitely be Dongfang Chang'eo. Immediately, 3 foreign cultivators rushed over and formed a triangle to hold Dongfang Chang'eo back. They did not aim to defeat him, they just needed to hold him back. Before the old man in linen robes arrived, a silver light had already left his hand and shot towards Qiu Wuyuan with a strong current of air. Its speed and power were hard to predict, but Qiu Wuyuan was also being held back and could not get away. His eyes were filled with grief and indignation, and he was about to make his last attack. "Elder Qiu, run!" A group of weak Wuxia cultivators rushed over in a frenzy, attacking the foreign cultivators who were trapping Qiu Wuyuan without any regard for their lives. There were even several cultivators who soared into the sky, wanting to risk their lives to block the old man in linen robes. However, they were struck by a casual palm strike from the old man, and the tyrannical force immediately smashed their flesh and blood into pieces. None of them were spared. Yen Bugue, who was outside, saw his junior brother's reaction and smacked his lips with difficulty. After all, they had been brothers for many years and could not be thrown away so easily. However, since things had already come to this, there was no turning back. "Fight!" Suddenly, a beautiful woman's shout was heard. A black shadow shot over and directly hit the silver light released by the old man in linen robes away, immediately saving Qiu Wuyuan from danger. Zi appeared out of thin air and recalled the purplish-black bamboo. She shouted again, "Fight!" The black shadow shot towards the old man in linen robes again. A strong current of air broke through the air and the old man was shocked. He shook his arms and summoned the silver light. Together they soared into the sky and barely avoided the black shadow. When Zhou Xian saw the person who saved him, he instantly became spirited and said, "Thank you, Miss Ce." In fact, he was not the only one who felt that way. Everyone else was also spirited. When they were in danger, a strong help suddenly came. This kind of feeling was hard to understand even if it was just a ray of hope. Moreover, everyone knew that Ze had been by Yu Qianchou's side for a long time. Since she was here, that guy should be here soon. The guy who was not very famous but could control 1,000 swords appeared in everyone's mind. That guy was an expert in fighting. Moreover, he had more than 600 rogue cultivators under him. Even if they were useless, they could still be of some use. When they thought of more than 600 people coming, everyone couldn't help but look forward to it. Ze raised her head and looked at the sky, then quickly looked at Zhou Xian, who was trapped. No one knew what she was thinking, but she shot out the rod in her hand with a swoosh sound. The strong wind blew and the people below were no match for her. They were all scared out of their wits. However, there was still one person who couldn't escape as fast as the rod. Because he was the target, he immediately let out a scream. After smashing one of the people who trapped Zhou Xian to death, the rod shot back and accompanied Ze to the sky. A linen robe and Ze quickly fought in the sky. From time to time the sound of fight, fight, fight could be heard. It seemed that Ziyi's great skill of shifting positions was indeed useful. It was almost suppressing the old man in linen robes. The old man was in danger and was suffering unspeakably. Only then did he realize that his opponent's skills were not just a little higher than his. Especially that strange body movement, it was almost impossible to defend against it. What a joke. Although Ziyi didn't know much about the ways of the world, but in terms of cultivation, Nongzhu spared no effort in teaching her. After all, they were master and disciple in name, but in reality, Ze was his daughter. When he couldn't find a suitable opponent for his daughter, he would personally go and spar with her. Think about it, a person who could fight against an ascended realm middle stage cultivator for a long time would naturally be able to fight against a tribulation passing stage cultivator with ease. The old man in linen robes who was restraining Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia stared at the sky with a serious expression, then suddenly shouted, "See, my brother and I have no grudge against you. Why aren't you staying in your southern sea purple bamboo forest? Why are you here to fight against us?" Ze was in the middle of the fight, so she didn't have time to answer him. Her only reply was fight, fight, fight. Beauty of 100 Charms stared at the fight in the sky, thinking about why she purposely provoked her last night. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel a little scared. This Ze looks like she doesn't know much about the ways of the world. She didn't expect her to be so strong. Seems like it's better not to provoke her, otherwise if she gets angry no one will be able to protect her. Yu Qianchou saw that Ze had the upper hand and wouldn't be in danger, so he breathed a sigh of relief. His gaze turned back to the battlefield where the number of casualties was increasing, silently calculating. The old man in linen robes wouldn't let go of the mother and daughter easily. The old man in linen robes was being restrained by Ze, and the two late-stage tribulation passing stage cultivators couldn't attack, so their threat was greatly reduced. It's time for me to act, otherwise if Ze shows up and I don't show up, I won't be able to explain myself to everyone. Yu Qianchou silently counted the remaining 30-plus cultivators. It seems like Dongfeng Chang'ao and Zhou Xian had used up too much of their energy, so they were starting to show signs of exhaustion. His gaze became determined and a ball of blue fire appeared in his hand. The Allure Beauty's pupils shrank, not knowing what he was going to do, but the blue fire gradually condensed into a fireball in his palm, and Yu Qianchou suddenly threw the blue fireball directly into the sky. A ray of blue light exploded below the battle between Ze and the old man in linen robes, and the high temperature made the two of them a little uncomfortable. The sudden abnormal scene made the old man in linen robes raise his head to look, and many people also took the opportunity to look, only to see the words, "Prepare for battle, gather and surround them," condensed in the blue fire in the sky. These words didn't appear for long and gradually disappeared in the sky. However, the meaning of these words was thought-provoking. "Prepare for battle, gather and surround them" appeared at this time. Was there even a need to think? The only thing everyone was worried about was not knowing whether it was a friend or a foe. "It's Yu Qianchou's blue fire." Someone shouted from below and the Cultivation Alliance immediately shouted, "Help is here, our help is here." The group of foreign cultivators felt a little guilty, and while fighting they were distracted from time to time, not knowing what kind of powerful help made their opponents so happy. The old man in linen robes in the sky didn't dare to be distracted to deal with Ze, but suddenly found that a large number of people in black suddenly appeared from all directions, like a swarm of locusts. He didn't know where they came from, but there were at least 500 or 600 people, and all of them were flying quickly in the sky. Based on this alone, it could be concluded that these people in black all had the cultivation of the tribulation stage. Otherwise, even a nascent soul late-stage cultivator couldn't fly so fast in the sky. 500 or 600 tribulation stage cultivators. There were so many hidden masters in the 100 Flowers Valley. This was bad. When the old man in linen robes realized this, he was shocked and hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the old man in linen robes below. "Senior brother, be careful." The voice transmission stopped abruptly, and the old man in linen robes felt a great pain in his back, thinking that it was over. Looking down, he saw a black shadow flying out from his chest where his heart was. At the moment when he was distracted, his defense was a bit lax, and Ze finally found a chance to kill him. The old man in linen robes suddenly looked up to the sky, saw everything and immediately shouted, "See bitch, you dare." Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia were suddenly gripped by the strength of his hand. They felt like their shoulders were about to be crushed, but they couldn't say anything. Fight. Ze was also ruthless, hitting the opponent's vital point in one strike. Seeing the opponent falling down, she still wasn't willing to give up, so she called back the bamboo with a strong gust of wind, directly smashing the head of the half-dead person into nothingness. Sure enough, she carried out Xianxia's kill without mercy to the end. Chapter 4:12. The purplish-black bamboo shook off the dirt on its body in the air, then flew back to Ziyi's hand. The old man in embroidered robes bellowed, "Slut." Ziyi scoffed. Without needing anyone to call her, she directly landed in front of him, holding the bamboo in her hand, her face cold as she slowly approached. It seems like she hasn't had enough yet. Xianxia silently felt bad. This little girl is a one-track mind. She only worships old man Bai's ruthlessness, so she doesn't care about the lives of Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter. So he hurriedly told 100 Charms Enchantress, "Send your voice to her, tell her not to act rashly. Be careful that they don't hurt the mother and daughter." 100 Charms Beauty understood the severity of the situation and quickly sent her voice. Ze glanced over, then stayed in front of the old man without moving. Seeing his junior brother die, the old man originally wanted to leave the mother and daughter behind to take revenge, but seeing Ze coming over, he immediately remembered that he's no match for her, so he held the mother and daughter tightly in his hands and spoke in a low voice. "If you dare act recklessly, I'll make the mother and daughter die in front of you first." Ze didn't say anything, only stood there and stared at him, giving him a lot of pressure. The black-clothed people landed from all directions, surrounding the entire battlefield. Each of them had a murderous look on their faces, ready to attack as soon as the order is given. The old man and Yan Bugui looked around, both shocked. These people definitely aren't their people. "It's Xianxia's rogue cultivators." The Cultivation Alliance's side cheered. They confirmed their identities from the rogue cultivator on their chests. "Aren't they the rogue cultivators that Xianxia brought here?" But then they noticed something was wrong. Their aura is completely different from the previous rogue cultivators. Originally, they didn't stand in a proper manner, and even if they were to stand together, they wouldn't be able to form a team. However, as these people stood there casually, a sharp aura that was ready to be unleashed was obvious. Especially the eyes that were exposed under their masks were filled with killing intent, and each of them were like wolves waiting for an opportunity to hunt. The Allure Temptress looked at these people in surprise. Although she could see the words "rogue cultivators" on their chests, she thought more about it. The heroes who robbed them were all masked and dressed in black. Could it be them? He subconsciously glanced at Xianxia, only to see him walking out from behind a few trees with a calm face, with his hands behind his back. Standing on the hillside, his eyes scanned the surrounding black-clothed men, and an arrogant look appeared on his face. All of them were at the early stage of the crossing calamity. There were more than 600 of them. Where did he get all this from? The Enchantress of 100 Charms secretly clicked her tongue and silently followed him out. Suddenly, she heard the sound of wind coming from both sides and immediately became alert. "Don't be nervous, he's one of us." Xianxia glanced at her and said indifferently. 2 black-clothed men quickly flashed over and stood side by side in front of Xianxia. They placed their right hands on their chests and bowed silently. The surrounding 600 black-clothed men also turned to face Yu Qianchou and bowed in the same way. That indescribable aura was very stressful. Yu Qianchou nodded slightly and the black-clothed men resumed their battle preparations. The two black-clothed men in front of him flashed to the left and right of Yu Qianchou and waited for orders. The allure temptress was slightly stunned and could only stand guard behind Yu Qianchou. In the eyes of the people at the foot of the hill, Yu Qianchou and the black-clothed men on his left and right were indifferently observing the battle situation below. Yan Bugui's expression changed the moment he saw Yu Qianchou. This guy had ruined his plans time and time again. It was really infuriating. Yu Qianchou, why haven't you asked your men to make a move? When are you going to wait? Qiu Wuyuan shouted from below. It could be seen that his qi was indeed running out after the continuous fierce battle with Dongfang Chang'eo. Elder Qiu, I'm really sorry we're late. Please lead everyone away from the encirclement with Elder Dongfang. Don't worry about the matter of revenge, leave it to us, the rogue cultivators, so that we won't be affected. Yu Qianchou shouted loudly. The allure temptress behind him rolled her eyes. They were obviously early, but he said they were late. She stretched out her sharp index finger and wanted to poke his waist again. Who knew that the two black-clothed men beside him would suddenly turn their heads and stare coldly at her? Although the allure temptress's cultivation was higher than the two of them, she still felt a little creeped out by their sharp gaze. She embarrassedly withdrew her hand. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances from afar. Then they shouted at the crowd together, "Everyone retreat from the rogue cultivator's encirclement quickly." As they spoke, they struggled to break away from the entanglement of the few people. As they retreated, they did their best to provide cover for everyone. However, the foreign cultivators also understood that if they were to retreat, the opposing black-clothed men would most likely kill them. So they all stuck close to them and pestered them. Yu Qianchou frowned and shouted softly, "Command support." Yes. The two black-clothed men replied in unison and quickly made an order with their hand signals. The surrounding black-clothed men immediately formed into a well-trained three-man battle formation. They quickly shrunk the encirclement and closed in on the people who were fighting. The allure temptress was shocked. Just a few simple hand signals were able to command so many tribulation passing stage cultivators as if they were one person. It was simply unbelievable. Yan Bugui and the old man in embroidered robes turned pale with fright. They felt a serious threat. Ziyi was somewhat dumbfounded as she looked at her surroundings. Those black-clothed people were cold and intimidating. Were these the same people that Yu Qianchou had brought to wander around previously? The black-clothed men directly passed by the Hundred Flowers Palace, ignoring Ziyi and the old man in embroidered robes. They only surrounded the people outside the Hundred Flowers Palace. The encirclement shrank like a sieve, gradually filtering out the disciples of the various sects of the Cultivation Alliance and forcing the foreign cultivators back. There were also some people who wanted to take advantage of the entanglement to escape. However, as soon as they stepped forward, the groups of three in front of them immediately separated one person from each other. The encirclement formation was not chaotic at all. However, several people attacked at the same time. When the foreign cultivator released his flying sword, he didn't even have the chance to take it back. He was cut into several pieces on the spot and instantly killed. Occasionally, there were a few who wanted to fly into the sky and escape, but they all met the same fate. The power displayed by the combined attack immediately shocked everyone present. The people that Yan Bugui brought with him no longer dared to test their sharpness and were all forced to retreat. All of the surviving Cultivation Alliance cultivators were finally able to safely retreat. In front of the Hundred Flowers Palace, within a radius of 100 meters, more than 30 foreign cultivators were surrounded in panic, not knowing what would happen next. As soon as Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan came out, they immediately flew to Yu Qianchou's side. When they saw the two black-clothed men beside him, they sized them up curiously. Qiu Wuyuan said in surprise, "Yu Qianchou, are they those rogue cultivators?" Yu Qianchou looked at the two people who were covered in blood and said with a smile, "If it's not them, where would I come from?" As he said this, he pointed at Yan Bugui and ordered his men, "Capture this person alive. I want to exchange him for hostages. Leave no one alive. Kill." The two of them quickly gave the order, and the encirclement formation changed again, becoming a small team of 10 people. Half of them quickly rushed into the encirclement, and the other half quickly closed the encirclement again. A strangulation battle with an absolute advantage was displayed in front of the surviving members of the Cultivation Alliance, and it really shocked everyone. The opponent almost only had one chance to attack. Once the magic weapons or magic treasures in their hands were used, they would never be able to return, and they themselves would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Facing more than 300 cultivators at the Crossing Calamity stage, more than 30 cultivators at the Crossing Calamity stage were quickly separated. Facing a group attack alone and the opponent's cooperation was seamless, one could imagine the outcome. It was a battle without any suspense. The black-clothed and masked rogue cultivators killed all the opponents in a moment at the cost of no casualties. Yen Bugui looked around in horror. He was really the only one left. He never dreamed that there were so many Crossing Calamity stage experts hiding in the Hundred Flowers Valley. Fortunately, the opponent obviously didn't want to kill him. The brocade-clothed old man looked down with a pale face. Although he wasn't surrounded, the purple clothes in front of him made it difficult for him to escape. Now the mother and daughter in his hands were his last life-saving talismans, and he could only hold on to them tightly. Yu Qianzhou shouted at him, "Old man in flowery clothes, listen up, I don't want to waste time with you. Let them go immediately and I will let you and Yen Bugui go." "Words are no proof. How can I believe you?" The brocade-clothed old man shouted immediately. "I, Yu Qianzhou, value my credibility the most and I have never gone back on my words. I guarantee with my credibility you can rest assured," Yu Qianzhou said. The brocade-clothed old man sneered. "Credibility? Do you really think this old man is a 3-year-old child? If you swear an oath, this old man thinks it's better than credibility. You don't have the right to bargain with me. I said I will let you go, so of course I will keep my word," Yu Qianzhou coldly said. "I will count to 10 if you still don't let them go. Zi, bring me that old man's head." Then he stared at Yen Bugui and said in a low voice, "And don't let him live." "No." Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyun both shouted. Dongfang Chang'eo shook his head. "Yu Qianzhou, we can negotiate." Bai Hua Fairy had already closed her eyes, while Yen Zixia tearfully stared at Yu Qianzhou, but he ignored her. "I have never gone back on my words. If you have the guts, then save the mother and daughter right now," Yu Qianzhou coldly said to Dongfang Chang'eo, then turned around and began to count, 1, 2, 3. And his speed wasn't slow either. Zi slowly stepped forward. The brocade-clothed old man's face changed. He didn't think that she wouldn't even consider and forced him to make a decision, and in such a hurry. When he counted to 8, he finally shouted, "Wait. If you have something to say, then say it. I don't have the patience." Yu Qianzhou coldly snorted and continued to count, 9. "I agree." The brocade-clothed old man shouted, "I hope you can keep your promise." He really didn't have a choice. Even if he killed the mother and daughter and left Yen Bugui to escape from Zi, such a big matter would eventually reach Yen Zhuixing's ears. It's impossible to hide it. With Yen Zhuixing's relationship with Man Hu and the others, sooner or later they won't let him go. He might as well take a gamble as long as he can escape. Even letting the mother and daughter go is the same, at least he can explain it to Yen Zhuixing. What if they keep their promise? That's even better. Hearing that, Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyun's hearts that were already in their throats finally calmed down. "It's good that you agree. In this world you can doubt anything, but Yu Qianzhou's character, you definitely don't need to doubt it, it's always been tested." Yu Qianzhou nodded and casually said. Chapter 413. Everyone's eyes were focused on the old man, cautiously waiting for his next move. No one noticed. Unknowingly, Yu Qianzhou has become the leader of this place. In fact, this was also his goal. He could have acted earlier, that way the Cultivation Alliance wouldn't have to pay such a heavy price. But he waited until the Cultivation Alliance couldn't hold on any longer, when even the brave Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyun were at a disadvantage. Only then did he act. Although adding flowers to a brocade is good, it's not as good as sending charcoal in the snow to achieve his goal. After the Cultivation Alliance sacrificed hundreds of lives, he managed to turn the tide. Now he's the leader here. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyun can't interfere. From today onwards, no one in the cultivation world can say that he, the hero, is the scum of the cultivation world. He's long since disliked this title. Now that Yen Bugui and the others have arrived, of course he has to take advantage of the situation. "Since you dare to call me a scum of the cultivation world, then I'll make you pay with your blood to take back this title." From the moment he was watching the battle from the shadows, he already had this thought. Only when the situation was out of his expectations did he start to interfere. Although he agreed the old man was still a bit hesitant, but in the end he still gritted his teeth and pushed by Hua Fairy and Xianxia away. Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiuwen quickly went to protect the mother and daughter. The old man looked at Yan Bugui who was surrounded below, then shouted to Yu Qianchou. Yu Qianchou, I've let them go, it's time to fulfill your promise. Your worries are unnecessary, I've already said that you can doubt anything, but you definitely don't need to doubt my character. I've always been a man of my words, I've never discounted them. Yu Qianchou waved his hand. Let them go. With that order, the black-clothed men surrounding Yan Bugui quickly moved away. The embroidered-robed old man immediately shouted, let's go. He immediately shot into the sky. Yan Bugui looked at Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia with a complicated gaze, but didn't dare to stay any longer and also shot into the sky to chase after them. The two of them broke through the seal formation above the 100 Flowers Valley and quickly disappeared. Retreat. Yu Qianchou nodded. The black-robed men on both sides immediately issued an order. The black-robed men below quickly collected the storage pouches of the dead foreign cultivators. Then they flew across the sky and disappeared into the surrounding mountains as if they had never appeared. Everyone was stunned. Could these people really be those rogue cultivators? Even when retreating, they didn't forget to scavenge some things. They really had the demeanor of those poor rogue cultivators. However, at least he still had some morals and didn't touch the belongings of the dead disciples of the various sections. Otherwise, it would really be difficult to recover them. Actually, it had nothing to do with morality. Yu Qianchou knew that these second-rate disciples didn't have anything valuable on them. Why would they do something so shameful and cause trouble? On the other hand, the guests that came from afar probably had quite a bit of money on them, so he should take them back to check. Ziyi flashed back to Yu Qianchou's side. Yu Qianchou couldn't help but look at Yan Zixia's sorrowful eyes. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly, thinking, Eldest miss, please don't blame me for being cruel just now. The crueler I am, the safer you and your mother will be, I hope you understand. At this time, the exhausted Bai Zizong's group of 4 ran over and bowed, saying, Thank you sir and Miss Ziyi for saving our lives. Ziyi looked at the ragged clothes of the 4 people and frowned, but didn't say anything. No need to thank me, it's what I should do. Yu Qianchou nodded and smiled. He also noticed the 4 people just now. It seems that the shopkeepers and workers of the 4 great families' shops were almost all killed in order to protect them. Luckily, they managed to save their lives, otherwise a few people who shouldn't have died would have died in vain. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. You guys talk. A green light flashed from his sleeve, and Yu Qianchou stepped on his sword and left. The temptress didn't even know the 4 people, so what was there to talk about? Of course she followed them. Ziyi glanced at the 4 people. What was there to talk about? She only felt disgusted, so she sprung away. Everyone watched the 3 people leave, and then looked at the outside of the 100 Flowers Palace. There were corpses everywhere, and the survivors from each sect started to collect the corpses. The market in the 100 Flowers Valley was already deserted. When the 3 of them returned to the 100 Flowers house, there was actually no one there. They probably all went to help just now. Yu Qianchou rubbed his stomach and said, I didn't eat anything at first and now there's no one. What bad luck. There should be ingredients in the kitchen. You guys go and rest first, I'll send them up later. The temptress smiled and slowly walked to the back. She really did look like a servant. Yu Qianchou didn't stand on ceremony and directly went upstairs. After entering the room, he sat in front of the round table in the center and poured himself a cup of tea. As he drank, he looked at Ziyi and asked, If you have anything you want to ask, just ask. Don't stifle yourself. This girl's doubts were all written on her face and she didn't know how to hide it. Ziyi clasped her hands together and fidgeted for a while. Suddenly, she looked at the door guiltily and turned back to ask, Do you want me to massage your shoulders? What? Yu Qianchou was stunned and thought he heard wrong. Do you want me to massage your shoulders? Ziyi repeated. Yu Qianchou's expression twitched. He didn't know what was wrong with this woman. She actually wanted to do such a thing. Even if she gave face to her father, he wouldn't dare to let her do it. So he shook his head and said, No need, no need. If you have something to say, just say it. Ziyi frowned slightly. It seemed that she was a little unhappy that he didn't let her massage him. She bit her lips and sat in front of Yu Qianchou. She asked, Those loose cultivators are not loose cultivators at all. Where did you find them? Why don't I know? Yu Qianqiu replied without hesitation, Of course, I hired them with money. If you don't pay, who would help you for free? Ziyi's expression became serious and said, The joint attack of these people is very powerful. If I was surrounded by them, I wouldn't be able to last long if I didn't escape. You must have spent a lot of money to hire so many people at once, right? The sound of people coming upstairs came from outside. Yu Qianqiu didn't deny it and just replied with an N. After a while, the temptress came in with a pile of food and the table was almost full. The people from various sects were busy cleaning up the mess outside, but the three of them were eating and drinking comfortably in the room. The temptress took the opportunity to pour wine for Yu Qianqiu and asked, Just now, that old man in embroidered robes had the lives of Guan Muxue and her daughter in his hands. You let him go and that's still acceptable. But you clearly had the chance to kill Yan Bugui. Why did you use him to exchange for the lives of the mother and daughter? You let him escape for nothing. Yu Qianqiu scratched his nose and thought to himself, The Yan father and son are targeting the Cultivation Alliance, not me. My interference has already made them very unhappy. If I really kill Yan Bugui, then just wait and see. Yan Zhuixing will definitely lead a group of people to fight me. The entire Chinese cultivation world needs to form the Cultivation Alliance to be able to fight them. I have nothing better to do. If I want to become enemies with these powerful people who killed my father, I'd be more likely to have a problem with my brain. You guys continue to fight, I'll just cheer you on from the side. Don't think that I'll get too involved. Yu Qianqiu drank a mouthful of wine and ate a mouthful of food, then casually explained, Some time ago, in order to split the money, the previous palace master of the 10,000 demons, Senior Yan Wuchen, had given me face. How could I have the cheek to kill his only son? Just take it as returning the old man's favor. The temptress nodded slightly. She had also heard about the matter of splitting the money, but she was more or less confused. There was no other reason, but the key was that this little fox was too sincere, which made her suspicious. On the coast of the East Sea, the heroes of the Cultivation Alliance, the righteous and the evil sects, were stationed there. The defensive line was pulled apart along the coast, spanning hundreds of miles. This was originally a place where the coastal residents lived and fished for generations. However, in order to not implicate these ordinary people, the Fuxian Island used its control over the secular imperial power to force the local residents to move away. Although it was done with good intentions, the relocation was not a small number. Therefore, hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes. For a time, it caused public discontent and almost led to a civil uprising. In the end, it was General Wei who led the army to suppress it forcefully. They barely managed to move away, but the resettlement of hundreds of thousands of people became a problem. However, corrupt officials were running rampant in the imperial court, and the money allocated by the upper echelons was embezzled layer by layer. How much of it could fall into the hands of the people? If the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of people became a problem, it was only a matter of time before something big happened. This was not something the cultivation world would care about, and no one would care about. They had already fought with the foreign cultivators a few times, and both sides had suffered some losses. Currently, both sides were actively adjusting, preparing to compete with each other again. However, at this time, the Cultivation Alliance suddenly received news that Yan Bugui had secretly brought dozens of tribulation passing stage experts to attack the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance, the 100 Flowers Valley. Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu led more than 600 loose cultivators and arrived in time. Almost all of Yan Bugui's group were killed. Unfortunately, in order to save Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter, Yan Bugui and a late-stage tribulation passing stage expert were released. When the various sects heard this news, they couldn't believe it. Just the loose cultivators under Yu Qianqiu could kill dozens of tribulation passing stage experts? So they all sent messages to their own people to ask for more details. The result was that the more than 600 loose cultivators led by Yu Qianqiu were not ordinary loose cultivators. They were all tribulation passing stage experts. The various sects were shocked when they heard this. More than 600 tribulation passing stage experts? After confirming it several times, they finally believed it was true. The various sects gathered again to discuss this matter. It was a crucial moment in the war. How could they not use so many experts in the rear? So the Luo sect suggested that no matter where those loose cultivators came from, Yu Qianqiu could leave 50 loose cultivators to continue defending the 100 Flowers Valley, and the remaining 500 loose cultivators would be transferred to the various sects to prepare for the war. This proposal was unanimously supported by the various sections. Everyone knew very well why they did this. No one could rest assured that Xianxia had such a strong force in his hands. Especially sects like the Luo sect who had a grudge against him, it was better to split them up as soon as possible. Of course, jealousy was also a practical reason. All the sects wanted to take a bite out of it. The news of the transfer was immediately sent back. When Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan received the news, they looked at each other. Anyone with a brain would know what it meant, not to mention someone like Yu Qianzhou who didn't want to be at a disadvantage. Dongfang Chang'ao said in a low voice, "Brother Qiu, you and Yu Qianzhou have always been brothers. I think it's better for you to make the decision." Chapter 4:14. There's no need for me to explain what this means. Qiu Wuyuan tossed the jade archive in his hand onto the tea table and chuckled. Didn't you see how obedient those people are towards Yu Qianzhou? Do you think Yu Qianzhou will obediently hand over such a useful subordinate? Say, whether he's willing or not, one of us has to go talk to him. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer to the various sections. Dongfang Chang'ao said helplessly. He just saved our lives and we're going to cut his flesh off. Who has the guts to say such a thing? Qiu Wuyuan slapped the tea table beside him. Dongfang Chang'ao frowned. They didn't see the situation at the time. It's easy for them to talk. But since my supporting Immortal Island and the 10,000 demons have agreed, and we're the ones in charge here, only you and I can talk to him. Talk my ass. Qiu Wuyuan shot to his feet. He pointed to the east and said angrily, "They only dared to speak so shamelessly because they're far away from us. Believe it or not, if they were face to face, none of them would dare to say something like that to Yu Qianzhou's face. With that brat's virtue, no matter how high your cultivation base is, no matter who you are, he dares to kill you on the spot. Which sect would dare to fart like that? The decree of the 10,000 demons is also here. Would you dare to disobey it?" Dongfang Chang'ao asked. When Qiu Wuyuan heard that, he was so angry that he glared at him and sat down again. Dongfang Chang'ao stood up and sighed. "We can't waste our time here. Let's go. We'll go together. If we're going to lose face, we'll lose face together." Upstairs in the 100 Flowers house, Yu Qianzhou was pinching his chin and smiling coldly at the window. The moment the coast of the East Sea came out with the results of the discussion, Bai Shan had immediately sent a message to him and had the Bai clan's people inform him of the news. He waited there to see who in the Cultivation Alliance would tell him the good news. The Allure Enchantress, who was leaning on the side, frowned slightly. She was secretly the leader of the Pink sect, so she naturally knew the results of the discussion. Yu Qianzhou glanced at her and sneered, "None of you so-called sects are good people. If I had known earlier, I would have killed all the disciples of the various sects in the 100 Flowers Valley. A bunch of people who bite the hand that feeds them." The temptress rolled her eyes and said, "Why are you scolding me too? Most of the sects agree. How can a small pink sect like me stop it? Besides, are you really that easy to talk to? Will you hand him over?" "Humph." Yu Qianzhou snorted coldly but didn't say anything. He thought to himself, "There's more to come, let's play slowly. Hey, let me ask you, what's the relationship between the 600 lone cultivators and the hero?" The Allure Enchantress smiled and leaned over, then poked his waist with her finger. Yu Qianzhou shook his head and said, "There's no relationship at all, don't think too much." Zi, who was sitting obediently at the side, widened her eyes and looked at the two of them. She could understand the first part of the conversation, but the more she listened, the more confused she became. Seeing the two of them being intimate with each other, an inexplicable feeling of jealousy arose in her heart. "They're here," Yu Qianzhou said as he looked at Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan. The Allure Enchantress looked over and the two people below also saw the two people at the window above. They looked at each other and walked into the 100 Flowers Valley in silence. Once the two of them entered the room, Yu Qianzhou waved his hand at them and said, "You don't have to say anything, I already know. For the sake of the big picture, I don't have any opinions, but to be honest, I can't make the decision for those lone cultivators. If you have anything to say it to them face to face. I won't get involved in case they say that I'm trying to ruin things. Let's go. Follow me to see them." The two of them were stunned, then they thought about it and realized that it was true. The people from the 4 major clans had probably told him before they did. But this was also good to avoid awkwardness. Thus, the two of them didn't say a word and followed him out. However, they were cursing in their hearts. Is this guy that easy to talk to? Once they left the 100 Flowers Valley, they saw people bowing to Xianxia. After all, he saved everyone's lives. Xianxia smiled and waved his hand along the way. The group left the 100 Flowers Valley. Xianxia threw out a flying sword and stepped on it. The few of them landed in a remote valley. Looking around and not seeing anyone, Xianxia clapped his hands. Suddenly, someone shouted from a dark corner of the valley, "Who's there?" "The Heavenly King covers the earth, tiger." Xianxia shook his head and said something that confused the few of them. Someone in the dark immediately replied, "The pagoda suppresses the river demon." The few of them immediately understood that it was a secret code. They were all shocked by such a classic secret code and looked at each other. A few figures shot over. They were the loose cultivators. Most of the black cloth covering their heads had been lifted up, revealing their noses and mouths. Their mouths were stained with a lot of mud and they were chewing as if they were eating something. Dongfang Chang'eo and the others shifted their gazes to their hands. Some of them were holding wild sweet potatoes, while others were holding wild mountain spirits. Most of them had been bitten off. They were eating this, but they didn't seem to have been washed, so they just casually peeled the dirt and ate it. The few of them were confused and didn't know what was going on. However, Xianxia shook his head and sighed, "Brothers, I've let you down." Zai. Elder Dongfang of Supporting Celestial Island and Elder Qiu of 10,000 Demons have brought the decree of the Cultivation Alliance. Do as you wish, I won't say anything else. After that, he quietly walked to the side with his back facing the others. Let them down. What did this guy do? The few of them were even more confused. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances. Qiu Wuyuan took a step forward and coughed. "We've received a decree from the Cultivation Alliance. In order to deal with the foreign cultivators' provocation, we've decided to transfer 500 people from your group to support them. Prepare to depart today." The leader spat out the thing in his mouth and waved his hand at Qiu Wuyuan. "What **T decree? We're done, we're not going to do it anymore. When they took the money they didn't give us a share, but when they fought for their lives they thought of us. Damn it, we haven't even gotten a single spirit stone until now. We've been digging for these things in the mountains every day to eat. What a joke." As he said that, he threw away the half of the wild sweet potato. The few people beside him also threw away the things in their hands and shouted, "That's right, if you don't give us money we're done, we're done." They wiped their mouths and pulled down their masks again. Dongfang Chang'eo frowned and Qiu Wuyuan's face darkened. Neither of them were fools. In the end they made such a big scene to scare people. In the end it was all for money. It was very Xianxia's style. If it wasn't Xianxia's instruction, then it would be a miracle. Zi nodded in agreement with these masked rogue cultivators' statement that they wouldn't do it if they didn't give them money. However, she was a little confused as to why they would eat this thing. Allure Beauty couldn't help but smile. If this guy wanted to do it, why didn't he make it more realistic? Why did he have to make it so full of flaws? Would a tribulation-passing stage cultivator be so hungry that they would dig wild sweet potatoes in the mountains to eat? With their cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for them to abstain from food for half a year. Asking for money with this reason was too lame. "Xianxia, what do you mean?" Qiu Wuyuan turned around and asked. His face darkened as if he had been tricked. Xianxia snorted coldly. He thought to himself, "It's good that you understand. I'm just afraid that you don't, or you'll really think that I'm an idiot." He slowly turned around and said, "I don't mean anything. What they mean is their own, it has nothing to do with me." Dongfang Chang'eo patted Qiu Wuyuan's arm, signaling him to calm down. He walked out and said to the rogue cultivators, "We've already delivered the decree. If you have any requests, why don't you tell me? I'll pass it on to the Cultivation Alliance." Elder Dongfang is wise. The leader of the masked rogue cultivators cupped his fists and said, "We're all rogue cultivators. When the Cultivation Alliance doesn't need us, they don't even bother to look us in the eye. Now that we can use it, they want us to risk our lives for a so-called decree. What a good plan. We have the elderly and the young to take care of, and we don't have a sect to guarantee us. If we die, we'll lose everything. Now we only have one request, and that is to give us some settlement allowance. That way, even if we die, we can't say anything. We have the elderly and the young to take care of? Settlement allowance? Why does it sound like something from the secular world? Dongfang Changyou was slightly stunned. He almost didn't understand what they meant, but he understood that they still wanted money. He took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. He said, "How much money do you want? You can tell me directly. I'll pass it on to the Cultivation Alliance. As for whether they'll give it to you, I can't guarantee." The leader of the masked rogue cultivators said, "We have more than 600 brothers. Each of us will ask for 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones. If it's less than that, then there's no need to say anymore." More than 60 million upper-grade spirit stones. You're asking for an exorbitant price. Qiu Wuyuan sneered. "Elder Qiu, you can say whatever you want. In short, don't force anyone. If you give us the money, we'll do it. If not, we'll just leave. The world is a big place. I believe that if we 600 brothers unite together, it won't be difficult to get 60 million. What do you think, Elder Qiu?" The leader of the masked rogue cultivators said calmly, but everyone could hear the threat in his words. Dongfang Changyou raised his hand to stop Qiu Wuyuan, who was a little impulsive. He nodded and said, "I understand what you mean. I'll pass on the message. Let's put it this way for now. I'll let you know when I get a reply." Without another word, Qiu Wuyuan took the lead and flew away. Dongfang Changyou cupped his hands at everyone and left as well. "Good job. You guys continue, I won't disturb you anymore," Yu Qianchou said with a smile. He threw out a flying sword and flew away. The two girls followed behind him. Just like that, the few of them slipped away, but they didn't get any practical results. When the various sects received the news, many of them immediately cursed. However, they still felt that letting these people gather together was a threat. They had to find a way to break them up. At the same time, they all wanted to recruit their own sections. Especially in this situation, everyone knew what it meant to have a group of tribulation passing stage cultivators. A slightly bigger sect could fork out 60 million upper-grade spirit stones each, but no one wanted to let the 600 rogue cultivators have it all to themselves. Therefore, the various sects came up with a way to pool the money. According to the calculation of 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones per person, the 600 rogue cultivators were divided up. When Dongfang Changyou and Qiu Wuyuan received the news, they went to look for the rogue cultivators again. Who knew that these guys wouldn't act until they saw the rabbit? They insisted on getting the spirit stones first.